One. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you guys for strolling in. We're going to get started in a little bit. We have a fun little show for you guys. First and foremost, I'm going to start transitioning to our big screen in a little bit. But I want to thank you guys for showing up. As always, you can see our Stream Elements tab in the top pinned message. If you guys feel free, if you guys want to donate, if you guys can, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you can't, that's totally fine, completely understandable. One of the big things I did want to say is YouTube is fucking with their algorithm, apparently. Some videos are seeing how many comments are on a video, some videos are seeing how many views are people getting, and some videos are getting how many likes they're getting. So remember to like the stream, I guess, now, because YouTube is playing with their algorithm yet again. So we're going to transition, and we're going to get into it. This is going to be a fun show for today. I am going to be joined by two people, not the people that you guys see on our transitional screen, our little title screen, but I'm joined by a couple different friends. That's twice y'all gone live right as I was sitting to eat a big bowl of ramen. It's amazing. Starshine, thank you so much. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you guys for joining in. But yes, I am joined. I'm going to pause the music for a second. I am joined by two very special friends. We know them. We love them. It's QTV's Hood Ornament. Say hello to the folks, people.
Hi.
That's right. That's our QTV. He's here, he's there, and he's everywhere. And now
I am everywhere.
Yes, you are. How are the cats doing?
One is right next to me. He is very much asleep.
There we go. That's what we like. We like pets. We have pets on the broadcast. That is what we do. And joining us for the first time on the broadcast, her inaugural debut. We love her. You people may not know her, but we do. It's our foreign correspondent, Do.
Hello, I'm Du, and I like to look at freaks online.
Oh, Do. You do like to look at freaks online, apparently, because a little inside baseball, a little peek behind the curtain. I don't know who the fuck this man is, but Do does. Do knows our topic.
How can you not? He's my favorite man online.
Oh gosh. Do, what do you mean he's your favorite man online? Before we even get into our topic, what do you mean that he's your favorite man online?
You know, whenever I'm sad or bored, I can just look at him and feel much better about my own life.
I don't know how I should feel about that. That's a very poignant statement.
I understand what she's saying. I'm the same way when I watch White Bowser stuff. I feel a bit better about my own life.
Oh God, we're gonna have to cover White Bowser one of these days, aren't we?
Eventually,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, why do people introduce me to people I don't know, understand, and the little tidbits I get are crazy?
I could have said Cyrax.
Who the fuck is Cyrax?
Oh my God.
WPC.
We'll save that for later.
See, this is the thing. To our audience who is just strolling in, the biggest thing that I will say about the Opp Block is that we have fun times here, but we specifically don't know what the hell is happening. I never know what the hell is happening when it comes to lolcows or like people of the internets that would scare the living bejesus out of me. It is confusing, it is disorienting, and it is one of the scariest things that I can ever see. I forgot to put us to go live on Twitter, so I'm going to do that real quick. But while we're going on Twitter, how's the chat doing today? How you guys feeling? How you guys doing? Does anyone have any plans for their weekend?
I probably should be grocery shopping, but I haven't. I saw that we were going to go live, and I'm like, oh, I should see about this first. So I'm actually pulling off getting food to be here today.
Oh my God.
What do you mean that you're supposed to be grocery shopping? What happened to the grocery shopping?
I mean, well, I usually do grocery shopping on Saturdays. That's why.
That is like an interesting point. I do like, I try to go grocery shopping in the middle of the week because my job allows me to.
Don't go on Sundays.
I would never go on a Sunday.
Well, no, it's because everyone goes on Sundays.
That's true. How is it? So for those who don't know, Do is not from the United States, where some of us are from. Do, what is it like in your country of origin?
Probably the same, just without guns.
Why? Why you gotta say it like that? Why is that? Why is that what you say? I don't
Nice.
understand. Why is? Do I have so many questions? What does that mean?
Why? What do you mean? What do I mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? No guns. You mean there's no guns in Germany?
There's no guns in Germany.
There are no guns in Germany. So what do you guys do for fun?
You know, hitting each other with sticks. Mostly.
I was gonna say schnitzel, but
We also do schnitzel and bratwurst.
Is that right? Is that right that you love schnitzel and bratwurst? What are some of your favorite things?
hey, I'm from Wisconsin.
Schnitzel is
I
quite
also
good.
love bratwurst.
This is true.
See?
Yeah, that's a weird thing. We have a lot of the immigrant. I mean, obviously, America, immigrant
Are you
nation.
calling me an immigrant?
I'm not calling you an Dude, we're not starting this shit today. You guys don't understand. Dude makes fun of me all the time. I get shit on. It's like Dew, it's cloudy. All the women in my life are mean to me. It really hurts my feelings. All the people in my life are actually mean to me. You guys see what I get? This is the pain.
Because you're Italian.
What do you mean because I'm Italian? Go on, dude. Harp on that for a second. Wax poetic while I type out a tweet.
You know exactly what I mean. When will you finally eat the
SpaghettiOs.
The SpaghettiOs?
I will eat the SpaghettiOs never, because fuck that. I don't know. Xylie's probably not in here, but I will say that I will never eat the fucking SpaghettiOs. I know. I don't understand. I don't get why you people. I don't get it. I don't get why people love SpaghettiOs. I mean, I get it. Let me retract that statement. I do understand why people like SpaghettiOs. Dude, you don't even have SpaghettiOs in fucking Germany. What the fuck do you mean?
You
don't
do have
know.
SpaghettiOs. Fuck you.
Yeah,
And
they-
yes, Killjoy, we love telling our stories about chopping off kids' thumbs.
What the?
Wait, what?
What? What does
You
that?
don't know about the German fairy tales?
Oh no.
okay.
No.
No.
Julian-
It clicked on my head. It clicked on my head.
You know, we tell stories about how you're not supposed to play with fire because then you die. You're not supposed to refuse your food because then you die.
It's like,
And
isn't the end of every German fairy story is and then they died?
yes,
Why is it so depressing there? What did you guys do?
Because it's Germany.
that's how we learn discipline. Because we know if we don't eat our food, we die.
So as
That's
Killjoy
why this new generation is so fucked.
So Killjoy says,
They didn't have the fear of God put inside of them with fairy tales.
do we really gonna die on this hill that the newest generation is fucked because they don't have thumb chopping monsters in their nightmares?
It's not. That wasn't even monsters. I think it was. No, it was some random guy who came in and chopped off the thumb.
Well, now we're just getting to stranger danger at that point.
Yeah, I mean, listen. In the U.S.,
Listen, the boy wouldn't stop suckling his thumb, so that's what he got.
Listen,
Isn't that the one with like the kid who put his thumb in a dike?
I know a story with a boy who wouldn't stop sucking his thumb, even though he was too old for it. So he got his thumb cut off.
You know what? Will Soup is right. They had Jeff the Killer. How can you deny Jeff the Killer's existence? I can't believe you would ever do that.
Who denies Jeff the Killer's existence?
You did by saying that the children of today don't have nightmares.
True.
What's going on in Germany?
Is Jeff the Killer that one with the really weird, altered image?
Yeah, it's the really weird altered
Joker
image
boy.
face. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I know Mudahar has an actual bounty out if they can find the original picture, and he still hasn't found it. I've been occasionally he'll update that.
Mm-hmm. Doc,
The closest they got was a Japanese trend.
What? Yeah. Oh, yes. It was a Japanese trend. It was like a woman that took a photo of herself, and they were constantly photoshopping it over a period of time.
Yeah,
because the metadata showed that it was constantly manipulated.
The put his thumb in a. Okay.
Yeah,
oh my god!
Everyone
don't talk
about
the other
know.
thumb story. We don't talk about the other thumb story.
Of course, y'all gonna take it that way.
I mean,
It was supposed to.
You said it.
you said it.
I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. That is a German folktale. He put his thumb, not
Yes, where did he put it?
what, in a dam, but it wasn't called a dam. It was called something else. But I'm not gonna say it again because y'all are gonna be like, you put your thumb in a what? No, we're not doing the QTV accusation right now. I am saying what I was told in folklore, and like he couldn't pull his
Sounds
thumb
fair.
out or something. But it's a German. Is it German or is it like Finnish or is it Swedish?
Yes.
I think he's German.
Yes,
it's German.
chat. Maybe it is Finnish or German. But Starshine says, I'm a third generation in America. My pop was from Germany and my dad was born there. Yeah. Killjoy says, I love that Germany is why we have both kobolds and goblins, as they created a folk monster to explain the poisoning caused by the cobalt mines.
God.
It do be like
Okay.
that.
It did.
Okay, I did not know that, but now that makes sense.
Wow, that's yeah, and then Japan found goblins, and then everything went wrong from there. We now exist in that timeline.
What a beautiful time to be alive.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know that like Sweden created the whole troll thing because oddly enough, I was at work last night and we were talking about the movie Troll Hunter from like maybe about 10 years ago or so. Because we were talking about movies based on folklore, and I was saying how Troll Hunter was actually really good. And it was just funny that we're now talking about European folklore, and that was one that I had thought about literally less than 24 hours ago.
Yeah, Will Soup says, I mean, there's a German folk tale about a boy named Kaspar who died because he wouldn't eat a soup. This is funny because I, Soup, have a hater named Kaspar. That Will Soup, that's hilarious. I don't understand how the universe has done that to you. Yes, Cloudy, there is no such thing as other languages. I'm American.
It was Dutch.
America.
Okay, it was
It was Dutch. A brave young boy plugged a leak in a dike, a water barrier. Dike is a water barrier with his thumb, preventing catastrophic flood in the Netherlands. It was the Netherlands. My bad.
He should have let it go. Honestly speaking.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'll start war with the Netherlands. There's two people I will start war with. Xylee gets real and the Netherlands.
Why the Netherlands?
I don't know.
What have the Netherlands done to you?
You know what? They've never let me up there. I've never been in the Netherlands.
I
they
thought
didn't
you're
invite you.
Are you not also at war with Tyler? Are we not at war with Tyler as well?
No. We just need to do Jorritos flavor taste test and prove why lime is literally a subpar flavor.
Okay, all right.
In all
war.
No, if anything, technically the Opp Block has waged war for a very long time, specifically against one FPS Diesel, or as some people would know, Pookie Bear Supreme. Pookie Bear Supreme, I know you're out there. We are still at war with you. But before, and all of that being said, before we go into just the craziness of this person, how you doing today? What are we looking at today?
Well, we will look at the human pet guy, also known as Cybersmith, who made quite a name for himself back in the day, in the good old Tumblr days. Because after a discussion about if it's a fedora or a bowling hat, and somehow it got to the topic of a human pet and how he should be allowed to walk it around.
Excuse me, what he wanted to do? What with a human what?
You know, when you have your human pet and it's dressed accordingly and sprayed, you should just be allowed to take it with you to a restaurant.
What do you fucking mean, spade?
I was gonna say, what do you mean by spade?
You know, when you have a pet dog or a pet cat and you don't want it to make babies, you get it spayed.
Yes. What the fuck? Oh, no. I hate this. I hate this so much. Why the fuck are people like this? What is happening? So, when did you first know about Cybersmith?
It's being a responsible pet owner. And I was on Tumblr doing these days, and he randomly appeared on my, feed. And since then, I've been fascinated with this man.
And how long would you say that you've been fascinated with this friend, this man?
It's Tumblr, so
My friend.
Yeah.
It was probably 5 years now.
Oh my God, you've been following this man for 5 years. So in your following, you can't freak at the first fact. Cloudy, I'm gonna freak at every fucking fact. It's just gonna get worse from here. I can already feel it. What's up? What's up, QTV?
Falgi's a gentle boy. Give him time.
I am not a gentle boy. I'm just like, I don't understand.
He's a sensitive boy.
Listen, I understand being horny on main. Like I get it. It's yeah. He did appear on her feet. That's right.
Shut up.
Love you too. No, but like it is one of those things where I don't. So I never dived into Tumblr. It's going to be something that anytime we cover a Tumblr person, it's very bizarre. I've never kind of like looked into it. He's been around for a long time, from what I understand. He's been on and off. I know that at one time he definitely has a YouTube channel that had 8 years of videos because I guess he got banned at one time off of YouTube or left YouTube. I know he has a Twitch page.
He got banned everywhere.
He got banned everywhere. Will we go over the ban?
One of them.
What do you mean, one of them? Okay. I think it's time to go into this. Like I said, I don't know Tumblr, but I do think it's time to look into the abyss and have the abyss stare at us back. So we're going to go over this first screenshot. And you want... Dude, would you guys appreciate music under screenshots? I would like to know this. This is a pure curiosity. Obviously, it's very long, and we will get into it all. I'm so confused. This is scary.
I get to read Cybersmith.
Yeah.
I want to
if
voice
you want to
my
get like
boy.
villain music, go right ahead.
What is okay. Chat, what's good villain music you would like to see? I don't know. Villain music video game.
Oh, yeah, there
You
you
know
go.
what? Actually, you know what? Creepy music video game.
That probably works better.
Let's see. Let's see if I can find like a specific song.
Oh, Doom 3.
Hopefully, guys, we don't get copyright struck for this. But if we do, fuck it, whatever. I'll figure it out from there.
You
I
get
don't-
sued.
I don't care. I fucking play video game music all the time. I don't think nobody gives a fuck. Honestly speaking, the only time I've gotten a copyright issue was when we played fucking music. We played music from a like a safe stream website, and it fucking docked us. I'm not even kidding.
Honestly, I think we're too small to be taken seriously right now for strikes.
Oh yeah, no, I know. All right, so here we go.
Dream big.
All right, we're gonna be playing this in the background. I don't like this song. We'll go to the next one.
Hold on, I
Is it
actually
too
have
creepy for you?
It's not creepy enough. Okay, what is your suggestion?
give me a minute. I can find it. I can find something.
I'm about to just play fucking music from Luigi's Mansion. You know? Oh wait, it's coming around. It's coming around.
Let me just. I'll
Bruh.
DM you. Hold on.
What do you mean he doesn't deserve cool music? Hey yo, Mercury,
go.
what's going on? Oh,
I
you
just
know what?
DM'd you.
Okay. Let's. Okay. All right. As long as I don't get copyright stricken for this stuff.
I don't think so. It's just ambient music.
Sometimes they don't care, but it's okay. All right. And now, a live retelling of Cybersmith. I will be playing Uncle Father, and Du will be playing Cybersmith. Uncle Father. Me, wearing a dog collar and a leash, looking up at my man friend in his trench coat and fedora. Let's go out in public where you can walk me like I'm a dog in front of people who are visibly uncomfortable.
It's not a flippin' fedora, it's a bowler hat.
Oh god, there's more. Key Gooben Goober, a fedora is a fedora is a fedora.
Anyway, with regards to the original post, what would actually be wrong with that? There's no mention of public nudity, nor of treating the human pet in any way that would be considered strange for a dog. Should people be obliged to modify their behavior so that the irrationally
Prejudicial.
do not experience discomfort?
Irrationally prejudicial. Motherfucker. Admit you have a pet play fetish. There's no shame on this website.
Okay, just please consider this following scenario. It's 5 to 10 years from now. You're sitting in a restaurant, enjoying a lovely meal, when I walk in, accompanied by my wife, my children, and my human pet, whose genitals are covered as it enters on all fours and is wearing underpants.
What does that mean? Hold up! No, Mercury, I saw it. We're gonna get there. I got you. What the fuck does that mean?
He says what he says.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
What is that?
I mean, yeah, what explanation do you need? What don't you understand?
What do you mean?
Just throwing
He
it out
has a
there
human on a
casually.
leash.
What?
He
Why?
walks in like it's a dog.
What? But it's like he's not even doing it. He's not even doing it. Like, it's not even a fetish thing. He's like really just talking about the. Why is he semantics andying this?
Would you be happier if it was a fetish?
Kind of. I'm not gonna lie. I would kind of be happier if it was a fetish. This hurts me more that it's not one.
Shush.
I mean, it kind of. Well,
No. It hurts me more that it's not a fetish. It like
It's definitely a fetish. That's just a bit of normalizing it. Come on.
I don't like this. Okay, let's go on.
If my family and then I make an order of our own at the table next to you, in what way have we infringed upon your freedom? What rational basis do you have to demand that we leave our beloved pet at home? Fuck it all. Let's consider a more extreme scenario.
How can
It's
it be
5
more
to 10 years
extreme?
From now. Shut up, I'm reading. You're sitting in a restaurant enjoying a lovely meal when I walk in without my wife and children. For whatever reason, they haven't accompanied me. With my surgical modified human pet. Wearing a collar, being led in by its leash.
okay, two things.
What
I want to
the
know.
fuck is happening?
I want to note that why would you slur out the word heck? But, you know, that's beside the point. And what do you mean by surgically modified? How are we surgically modifying here?
He goes a bit along under there, but it's pretty much, yeah, it goes on, it goes on.
Oh no!
Let's just say this man is one doctor title and one bad day away from being the doctor from Human Centipede.
I don't like this.
My pet has been spayed, neutered, so you can't tell because its genitals, along with its boobies, if it's a female, have been
Boobies.
covered up. It has no vocal cords, and it walks on all fours, not by choice, but because its toes have been removed.
Why
along
are
with the
you so
tendons
in-depth?
and its ankles being severed. It may also have had its thumbs and the last 2 segments of each finger amputated, making it easier to care for. No fingernails to trim. Perhaps I even, humanly, removed its eyes, making it less independent.
Oh, so
Why?
that's the surgical alteration. Okay.
Why? Why would it do that? Why would you do that? You don't do that to a regular dog. Why would you do that to a human? What the fuck? Why would you do this? There's no reason to do this. Why? What is
But at
happening?
least the eyes have been humanly removed.
Yeah, Starshine. I definitely like Tusk.
They're humanely removed, yes.
Yeah, the movie Tusk
all
kind of
made
reminds me of
humanely.
this. Yeah.
All done
And Human
kindly.
Centipede.
It's all done with kindness.
Yeah, Mercury, I know. What the actual fuck? I
It's
don't...
done with love.
Somehow, it gets worse from here. Somehow it gets worse from here, I've been told. How?
What do you mean?
Oh, God!
Those are the thinkings of a normal man.
Okay, here we go. Here's more.
Even in this scenario, I haven't infringed upon your liberties. Irrational prejudices is precisely what you are. Prejudice.
I feel infringed on having read this. Certified iconic post. Hashtag submission. Hashtag fuck.
I mean, that's actually that's the true part.
That's fucking insane. Holy, how the fuck? Why? Well, yeah, flashbang to my eyes. I'm not enjoying this, Starshine. I'm not enjoying this. This is hurting me.
You're enjoying it.
I am not enjoying this. Why? Why did this man say these things?
I'm enjoying it.
He is big brain. That's why.
I don't like that he's big brained. I feel fucking smooth brain. So he comes on to the internet and he's like, you know what? Today's the day I decide to write on a post about owning a human pet, right? And
Have you never done this?
Let's say, is it him saying he actually owns it, or is it expressing a fantasy to own it?
He says if he owns one
Right, if he
human
owns
pet
it.
and will take
So-
it out,
Right.
But the desire is there.
You shouldn't judge him.
Right, I very much get the sentiment that he's very much a semantics Andy kind of person.
Yes,
that
definitely.
he wants to look at everything. Yeah, free. You don't like free speech. We live in a society. Fuck off.
We can't have a human pet. We live in a society.
I don't like the idea of human pets.
true.
You know what's funny? I don't
Back
understand.
in his days.
What days? What fucking days? He's from the fucking UK. He's just here. He's in our days.
But he loves the old monarchy where people were allowed to own people.
What? Oh my God! Why is he? No, he's doing the British thing. I bet
It
you.
just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
I bet you he's a royalist. He definitely would be
He
a
wants
royalist.
he wants humanely owned slaves. Okay,
Right,
Come on.
humanely owned slaves.
Humanely owned slaves. I don't like this idea. I think what like fucking bothers me about reading this post is if I go into it, it's like right here where
He really thought about it.
He really thought about it. He really put a lot of in-depth analysis into the
It's
idea.
detailed. It's very, very descriptive. Like,
Yeah.
this guy has had time. He's had multiple shower thoughts about this.
That's what it is that he's just constantly thought about how this scenario would play out in the real world and what the legalities and semantics and the social betrayal of it would be. Also, 10 to 15, like 5 to 10 years, bitch, what do you mean that this is going to be legal in 5 to 10 years? Why can't you just say an alternate society? Why can't you just say, picture this? No, motherfucker. Yeah, everything bothers me about this post Mercury. Believe me, I know. But it's
Bothers
like
all of us.
it's like what is happening? Why are you talking about it in this way? Why is holy shit? This is a fucking flashbang of information I did not need. So here's the thing.
You're just not ready.
I'm not. So we have a
You're
lot
not
of
ready for the bright future.
we have a lot of information on one Cybersmith. From what I understand, Cybersmith is a British individual. For those who don't know what Cybersmith looks like, I'll just kind of give you a small little flashbang. This is our boy Cybersmith right here. He's got what I can only imagine is the greatest facial hair of all time.
Looks like a cartoon character. I love it.
That is a look. That facial hair was a fucking choice.
It was not only a honestly
choice.
speaking, not only is his facial hair a choice, it is a cross, because there is no way in human history that my man does not have to trim, shave, and tug every single day. That is a labor of love. If there's anything I could notice, that his facial hair at the most is a labor of love.
I mean, is he trying to like sculpt some jawline that clearly isn't there? Like,
One
bro.
day.
I don't even think so, because I mean
He could not just fully embrace the neckbeard.
But why
This
would
is a gentleman's neck beard.
Yeah, I was about to say, why would a gentleman like himself, a UK gentleman like himself, really belittle himself by diving into the neckbeard? Truthfully speaking, he is examining the art of beard making. If you see, he perfectly has a curved line around his chin and his cheeks. It's such a very hard thing to do. Mercury, you pointed it out. Our friend here looks a little bit like Notch, one creator of Minecraft. I mean, is it an insult? I'm sure Human Pet Man and Notch would have
is his own creature, but
but I'm sure they have very similar opinions. Yes,
right.
He does look like he has slobbering jowls. I will hold up. I will show you guys a pic. Yeah.
He looks like if he was genetically coded, crossbred with a bulldog.
Oh my god, now that you say it, I see it.
Do you see it? Do you see the bulldog?
I'm trying to see if I can find the picture. So, this is my thing with Cybersmith.
Look at this gentleman.
Cybersmith has hair. He has hair. Why does he wear the fedora? He doesn't.
It's not a fedora, it's a bowler hat.
It's a bowler hat, excuse me. Why does he wear the bowler hat? He actually has a decent head of hair, honestly speaking. I don't understand. Also, can we just talk about whatever the fuck this is in the background of Mercury? Don't insult Bulldog. What the fuck is this, British, the fucking Hard Times-esque fucking toaster oven in the background over there?
Don't talk like that about his dungeon.
That...
What do you mean, don't talk about this like it's his dungeon? What do you mean? Hold on, let me, I'm just gonna enhance.
Enhance.
What do you
Zoom.
mean? He's a gentleman, you wouldn't understand his hat. I don't, listen, hats are cool. I can't pull off a hat. I can pull off some hats, but I cannot pull off a bowler hat like my friend Cybersmith here.
You gotta have the right head shape for the bowler hat.
Yeah. And something really interesting, you can tell that he takes a lot of time with his beard, because the image I used for we'll just pick up the image I used for oh, I can't even, how do I open this tab?
Is that a radio or a microwave? I can't tell from here.
It looks like a fucking microwave. There is no way that is not. No, don't show the folder. Why can't I just open it? Can I open it here? You're just gonna.
Don't open your gooning folder.
No, open your text folder.
No. But if you see here, the beard is super unkempt here. Definitely. He definitely gained weight.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is a much older picture.
Yeah.
But if you look here, this is also, I can't even fucking, holy shit, no one even has those anymore. Not since the 2000. Wait, Moist, can you please, what is that, a fucking real ass toaster oven? I need to know. The British people in our chat, you must tell us. I can't believe that's hilarious. But yeah, he's not, you could tell that the beard is unkempt, but he always keeps it. Yeah, he definitely, I mean, I'm not gonna make fun of somebody for gaining weight immediately. There's other things you can make fun of. The fact that, he looks like if a walrus, swallowed a pufferfish. I don't understand what's happening here. But one of the things that's really interesting to me that I can't really hate on, his glasses sense is not terrible.
I don't know about,
He's an established gentleman.
I don't know.
Of course, he has fashion style.
The glasses really don't bother me. Well, let's see. Moist says, I've definitely seen those in old council estate sales. Most people would have replaced them a long time ago. So I guess that's an old-timey British toaster oven. That's kind of funny. I'm just gonna take a sip of water real quick.
Old-timey. He's an old-timey gentleman.
So we have a couple tweets here. What tweets? God, we have a couple Tumblr posts here. We have a couple different things here. Would you like to start with the video, or do you want to go into more of the Tumblr posts? Because this is your stream and I'm living in it.
I would say the video, because the Tumblr posts are just some examples of his interesting opinions and ideas.
Yeah. Wait, your mom hates or hates those type of glasses frames, Mercury?
I'm gonna say has.
I will say
I'm gonna
has.
say has.
I don't mind them. I have round frames. I have multiple sets of frames.
I have Buddy Holly glasses.
He's an old timey oi bruv. Yeah, he is an old. You're absolutely correct. He is an old timey oi bruv. It's kind of hilarious. I can't even, if I remember. Oh, here we go. If I remember correctly,
that's why he loves ancient Rome.
If I remember correctly, he lives with his mother, who has some really outdated tech in her house, so it would make sense. I mean, that's actually quite interesting. I wouldn't. Again, this is things that I don't know about this man right now. What I could tell you from my initial thoughts, QTV, I'm curious because you also don't really know about this man that much. He's fucking strange. Like,
I
What do you
mean, that. I think that's the given answer. Is he's just fucking weird. Like I can't. I'm not gonna argue with that one. Like, if your line opens with here's my hypothetical situation, how I would own a human, and then go even deeper into here's how I would surgically alter them to the point where I think that they would be the most appealing, but in a humane way. Let's not forget the humane aspect of the situation. I think we've already crossed into he's fucking weird.
yeah, like I the only way I can describe him is it feels like he feels like a BioShock villain, like a very a very poorly written BioShock villain so far, and it's just very it's bizarre. Like a BioShock went to London.
He's a steampunk villain.
Nah,
Why a villain? He wants everything done humanely.
I don't know. The
He
glasses
does.
and the beard and the hat just screams like steampunk villain to me.
Well, Moist has a very good analysis. He looks like he got plugged straight out of Thomas the Tank Engine.
I see it.
That is very funny. So we're gonna watch a video from Rogue Internet Man. This is the video. This video is 10 months old. So let's look at what's going on with our boy Cybersmith. Let's see what the lore is, what the history is. How dare you say poorly written? I do say poorly written. Hey, real talk. Here's a spicy opinion. Everything after BioShock 1 sucks. Yeah, I said
I don't disagree with that, actually.
Everything after BioShock 1 sucks. And even that, after the twist in BioShock 1, it kind of fucking takes a nosedive. The quality kind of just goes completely downhill from there. It's really bizarre. It is what it is. But here we go. We're gonna dive right into what is going on with Cybersmith, the human pet guy. Copyrighted music, hopefully not.
Today's topic is something a touch different than what I usually do.
Mm.
Typically, I'll make you listen to me read.
Oh no!
Yes.
Not fuck it. Listen, as long as we are not. Oh, hey, I won't yell at you for this take. I'll thank you. I don't. Oh no, I don't like this. What? Listen, we're not wearing the medallion. We're good.
Somebody else's
I'm doing it right now.
Over-explain the story
Stop
to you for
now!
upwards of 20 minutes.
You're already
a pop.
cursed. It's already
Today,
over.
We're going to be looking at somebody who doesn't seem to fit into my normal content. Just hear me out. This one might interest you. Some weeks back, an image of an upstanding gentleman was posted to Twitter, or I guess it's X now, with the post stating that the individual looked cool and friendly. The comments that followed unraveled a phenomenon that had mostly been nestled away in the depths of another social media
They
service.
think he's cool.
That individual is Cybersmith. He's a random guy who uses both Twitter and Tumblr. This is obviously not that uncommon because plenty of people have taken the...
God, just look at him. Look at him in
His
all
eyebrows.
his glory.
I want to
His
point out
eyebrows
that
look like hairy caterpillars.
I I am still shocked that people still use Tumblr.
I thought
I didn't even,
Yeah,
I
I
didn't even
still
know it
use
was still a thing. I didn't know people still even use Tumblr.
I thought when the porn died off of Tumblr, so did Tumblr. I thought it kind of fucking fell apart. Am I incorrect in that assumption? Was that
Man, I mean,
It was a tragic day.
was it a tragic day?
Yes.
I don't even I don't know that much about
Do tell him on
Tumblr.
herself
It
right
was
now.
really a tragic day. Most people left. It's pretty niche right
yeah.
now at the moment.
That kind of sucks. Sorry, I'm making myself just a little bit smaller on the outline so it works. Oh yeah, so Cybersmith does have a YouTube page. Well, I don't even want to watch any of the videos. They're not that great.
We don't want to watch a spread.
Not even just that. I don't want to watch his fucking Trap review, because guess what? Trap. I already know that Trap by M. Night Shyamalan was not that great of a movie. Okay, let's see. Hold up. God, he uses the same butter as me. You could try to pry. Cloudy says you could try to pry Tumblr out my cold dead hands. I mean, like, it is what it is. Tumblr. I was on Tumblr for a little bit, but I didn't really use it that much.
I never used Tumblr.
I never really used it. Mercury says it was ran by trans. It ran by transphobic CEO, and I only use it for art. That's interesting. Very incorrect. Multiple Reddits fully moved over to Tumblr with the API things happening. Interesting. You know what? It is a weird thing when you because I remember during the time that Musk took over X, formerly known as Twitter, there was like a mass exodus from specific spots. I know Blue Sky is a thing. I know a bunch of people kind of just jumped ship to different areas. So I believe that Tumblr, there was a lot more that was coming towards Tumblr at that time. I don't know if anything kind of came of it. It would be kind of interesting if it did, but I know that it probably did not. But yeah, it's definitely something crazy. Yeah, he did one singular movie review for Trap by M. Night Shyamalan, which it is what it is. But yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Like, it's a weird, Tumblr is like a weird like place since like there was a weird transition. But yeah, let's get back into this video.
Plunge and wasted away countless hours on multiple clients. Before we get anywhere with him, I want to preface that this guy appears to be a bit of an anomaly.
So
Can't
beautiful.
exactly pinpoint if he is genuine or if he's
Picture
some
of a
kind
man.
of troll. I
He
can
is.
see evidence for both sides, but I have been unsuccessful in finding the smoking gun that determines his true placement. That being said, feel free to draw your own conclusion
He's
and please
such a
take everything with a
beautiful
grain of salt.
man.
I'm interested to read what you guys think.
Don't you wish you had a
Cybersmith
beard
is a
like him?
relatively unusual
at
interest that
his
he's
head.
very vocal about.
Oh my god, look at his hat though. Look at
His
his
little
hat. Look at his fucking hat, guys. Like, he got a little feather in his cap. You know what? Respect the feather in that cap. Respect.
He'll find ways to shoehorn it into a conversation, totally derailing the topic at hand, just so he can get his point across. What that point was at the time usually makes no sense and remains a mystery later. About 6 or so years ago, a post was made on Tumblr discussing the finer points.
I unironically thought he was wearing a fucking hoodie over his bowler hat, and I realized it's just his jacket in the
Just a
back.
sweater.
Holy fuck. No, it's like, because it's a jacket in the fucking background too. I was like, this motherfucker does not wear a hoodie over the bowler hat. There's something
You know what?
going on with him.
You know what? That would be a fashion statement.
Do you think people do that? Do you think it's possible that people like wear the bowler hat and like put like a fucking hoodie on the back and it's like,
I've never seen it, but I probably would
It
make
would
fun
be
of
so
someone if they
based.
did.
well, because I
Would
know
be so based.
there was a very famous British like anti-youth ad about hoodies and things like that. I know my UK members in the chat will know about that. That that the UK had like a thing with hoodies because it was racially charged and it was also youth charged as well. And it was just very interesting. But for a second I was like, if this man is wearing a fucking hoodie, that'll be hilarious. But I guess not. Now I'm sad.
Points of wearing a dog
Or
collar in
anywhere.
public, mostly written as a joke. I
Yeah,
would
hoodies
assume.
were banned
It's kinda hard to
in
tell these
UK
days.
schools.
Either way, I could break it down right here and now, but I think it'd be more fun to read you a conversation that he completely annihilated with his remarkable literary prowess. Me wearing a dog collar
Okay,
and
so we
leash
so we
looking
read this.
That's
awesome.
probably already dead.
That.
Yeah, well,
Keep
kinda.
goobin', goober. A fedora is a
We'll get
fedora
past
is a
this.
fedora. Anyway, play fetish. There's no It's 5 to
He
10
also
years
slurred
from now.
out flipping too, by the way.
Yeah, he does it. He does. Mercury, I don't know. Hoodies weren't outlawed in my school. You were able to wear them, so I don't know when that was. But yeah. Let's see this one.
You're sitting in a restaurant, enjoying a
No,
lovely
this is still that video. This is still his post. Lord help me. Why is this post so long? So yeah, we can all agree that this post is fucking crazy. Starshine, did you miss anything? No, we're just kind of going over who Cybersmith is. We talked a little bit about old Tumblr lore. You know, some of us being Tumblr girlies, some of us not being Tumblr girlies. It's totally okay. It happens. But yeah, no, this fucking post still insane.
Prejudiced
What do you
is
mean?
precisely what you are. Ah, yes, a tale not uncommon for the internet. A man divulging into extensive detail about how he'd like to mutilate another human being and treat them as if they are nothing more than a leashed animal. Shockingly, or maybe not,
What do you mean that he has an impersonator?
He has an impersonator.
What?
Oh,
No.
there's so much fucking lore. Why is there so much lore? Why does this man have so much fucking lore? I'm assuming, dude, you're gonna pull up all that shit. Oh god. There's so much lore.
pet play fetishism is quite common on the internet, but you typically don't see posts like this just floating around so shamelessly on a public forum. I'm still amazed how he managed to jump from the initial cringy joke from the OP to turning the thread into a defense of his own funny bedroom quirks. Gotta say, that's not very normal. It should really go without saying that if he's not being facetious, then his genuine beliefs are morally dubious. Now personally, I believe arguing morals online is fucking dumb, because
pretty much.
it is. But sometimes it can be interesting to sift through the unusual beliefs of some of the web's
this man just says some of the strangest shit I think I've ever heard in my entire life. How does he say it? God only knows.
He wears a bow tie.
He does wear a fucking bow tie. That's right. I hope he goes. You know what? I hope that there's a Cybersmith thing that goes into his fucking fashion sense, because I would love to know. I would love to know more about like what he views his fashion sense.
best and brightest. Someone like Cybersmith can't just take a classic, hey, this is fucked up and wrong and we shouldn't be promoting this, so allow me to attempt to dissect the moral problems with human ownership. Yes, a Ransona is going to tell you how it is. Might be time to question where your life is
What?
heading. For one, humans are far more intelligent than dogs or cats.
Look at that
animals
British
that are
food.
That's the most color I've seen in any British food in my life. I'm not gonna lie to you.
known for
It
being
looks
kept
like
as
a
obedient.
piece of burnt meat, potatoes, and peas.
Honestly,
the British slander on this channel is out of control.
listen, he's going in. Goes That's just listen. It's okay. It's okay. I love our British chatters, our UK chatters. Mwah, love you all. You're all beautiful people. It just.
Like glazing.
I listen. I'm just glazing, but you had the steel flavor. That was the one thing you truly. Starshine. It's giving extra in the Sherlock Holmes movie starring Robert Downey Jr. Oh
So true.
no!
No, I think it's actually mashed potatoes.
No,
boys.
I do think it's mashed potatoes.
I don't think it's
It's
cauliflower.
definitely something with potatoes.
It's definitely boiled potatoes.
house pets. While yes, these animals can
With
have
no
quirks or
spice.
personality traits,
Lord, help
they are
me.
simply not as sophisticated as most
It's
human
just
beings,
so
which is
funny.
why we tend to not take each other in as property outside
Yeah.
of twisted sexual scenarios. Adding on to the last
What?
point, human ownership has only resulted in grotesque acts with
You listen, Rogue. I'm gonna give you a. I'm gonna say this. You probably won't know this. You probably won't see this video. But if you do, bless your heart for trying to analyze his fucking strange behaviors and things that he's saying right now. Because I would just be going off on just the stupidity of the comments and just the wild things that he's saying. God bless your mortal soul. Wait. Moist says we would literally buy pineapple solely as a display house item. This shouldn't be a shock.
Oh no!
Listen,
Oh no!
the British are never
You
beating
don't
the
know
allegations.
the decorative pineapples?
No!
No, I
don't
didn't know
buy
that.
the pineapple.
The British are never beating the allegations. I really don't care what anybody says. They just won't. That's just how it's going to be.
in human history. Owning a person like he wants to would be the same as slavery, regardless of how you cut it. Even if he isn't having to
Humane
perform
slavery.
tasks
Yeah,
for his own
but
gain,
Cybersmith
he
says
desires
it's
to take a
humane
person and
slavery. What do you
modify
mean?
them via inhumane surgical operations to create a subservient subhuman creature. But who is Cybersmith? Well, I don't feel like trying to pry into his
no.
personal life.
No, guys, that was the day he couldn't get it rounded, so he had to make it angled. You can see he tried so hard.
But
Guys,
look how happy he is.
guys, no. Also, I don't know what the fucking... Greg, if you want to pop in, if your D&D was canceled, fucking pop right in. There is lore, and we are here. This is wild. This is... Hello, Cybersmith videos. How are you?
This is also funny. You have to view
Oh,
these things in context. Whenever
oh.
he says it and you look at the context, it gets worse.
Hi, Cybersmith videos. Is this the real Cybersmith videos?
Or is this the impersonator?
Decorative pineapples, I believe, originated around. I need to go to your channel real quick. We're just gonna. Oh, hi, Cybersmith. This is the real Cybersmith. Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Hey, Cybersmith. Love
Hey,
you.
bud, I really listen. If you want to live explain yourself right now, I'll fucking drag you into a call. I have no fucking issues.
I would love to talk to him.
Oh, hi. Thanks for the 50. I guess that's hi. If you want to fucking come into a call, by all means. So many traditions only make sense when you consider the context in which they arose. Cybersmith? What traditions are you talking about? What
Traditions
what
of owning a human
traditions?
pet.
Yeah. What are the traditions of owning human pets? I would love to know. Okay, send me a link. Oh boy, well, this is okay. Okay. I'm gonna have to get into a call. I am on Discord. If you I will figure this out. Everybody entertain the guests.
Do you want him to send the link on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm about to say, take the pineapple tradition, you have to realize that it came after a blockade and rationing. Hold up. Give me 1 second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure this out real quick. I'm going to go to the starting screen. Yeah, that's the plan, is to go to the starting screen. So we're going to go back to the title card real quick. Everybody is going to come. We're going to be right back. We're going to try to get Cybersmith onto the pod. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play some music just to try to figure this out real quick.
I can send you his Twitter, then you can...
Actually, if you want to make a separate call, we will kind of go into this because I am just going to kind of get stuff going on. Sorry, I have to fucking music. This is the one thing I enjoy but hate about streaming on YouTube, is that the pain in my ass. All right, we'll be back, guys. Hey guys, we're just going to mute the stream real quick. We're just setting everything up. We're going to get Cybersmith in, and we're going to be coming back, and we are going to do a live interview. Just asking a couple different questions, but let's just hold up.
The Semites in the Middle East, they have their story of Eden. We know
Okay, guys, we're going to be setting this call up in a little bit. We're going to be right back to it. I want to thank you guys for being so patient with us. In the meanwhile, I'm going to put the music back on. We just had to set everything up, and I just had to hear everybody all at once. So give me 1 second. Well, hello everybody. We're going to be starting a little bit. Cybersmith is just getting ready. And once he does get ready, we will definitely just pull him into this call that we are having. I want to thank everybody for still being with us and still being here. If you guys want to, please like the stream. Definitely don't worry about it. We're just, people do work on weekends here in the States, unfortunately. Medical jobs, travel jobs. There's actually a variety of jobs that do work on the weekends. That's pretty much it. I don't have the Discord call on right now, but I will turn it on in a little bit. How's everybody feeling? How's everybody doing? If you want, like the like the stream, share the stream. This is a live interview. This will be fun.
Just ask him now. We will read them out later.
Yeah, if you guys have any kind of questions to Cybersmith that you guys would like in the chat, we will be taking some. So that'll be fine. I'm just, I just want to make sure that he's prepared and ready. The kindest thing to do.
I'm so excited. My hero.
So yeah, just letting everybody know, we're just letting him set up, respectful thing to do. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. So far, this has been an interesting time. This will be, this is a fun moment. Music loud? Is music too loud? I mean, music will be down when we come off, but I will make sure the music goes down. Give me 1 second, folks. I apologize for the music for being loud. There we go. Much better. Oh, yes. Okay. Doc, I'm going to take that into consideration. I know, dead air. It's, all of our co-hosts, all of our co-hosts are currently kind of setting up everything. And again, so yeah, chat. So this is interesting. I mean, we can go into it a little more. I definitely think that it's definitely is going to be a fun time. I will. You know what I should do is I should probably do the stream thing. We'll go to my own Twitter.
Doctor, I have your question written down. You ask me that later.
Oh, that was the first question I was going to ask.
Yeah, how we found the stream.
Yeah, I'm actually genuinely curious. I mean, this is like. Yeah. Yeah. I really don't have much to say right now. We're just setting up everything. I want to, Cybersmith is just making himself more presentable.
Calming his beard.
The chat.
Greg's internet died.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Greg, I know Greg is just chilling a little bit, and then we're just having fun. This has just been a fun
My
time.
emotional support, Greg.
Yeah, Greg is always our emotional support. Greg, I don't know if anybody knows that about Greg, but Greg is really like one of the kindest people that I will ever meet on this platform. I really do think he's a pretty cool dude. I mean, this is interesting. Cybersmith, if you're still out there, take your time. Not too worried about it.
Continue to watch the video in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, we will just. I think we're just gonna watch the video in the meantime, as just a. We'll just watch the video in the meantime, just to wait on you, buddy, just so we can get a little bit about you. Listen, totally fine with understanding you. I'm gonna transition back. 3, 2, 1, transitioning back. I just want to make sure that certain things are available and ready. I don't want to leak DMs. And we will continue with the video for now.
Mainly because I don't want to be turned into a neutered, leashed pet. However, we do know what he looks like in the real world thanks to him sharing selfies on Twitter. He has a rather attention-grabbing physical appearance, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He appears to keep himself groomed, but he opts to present himself like a would-be stereotypical snake oil salesman, which is quite the aesthetic if I do say so myself. His facial hair is the most catching part of his face. What intrigues me is how he is so open about his fetish, while also publicly displaying his face on social media, which, professionally speaking, probably isn't a good idea. His appearance is actually one of the reasons he's gotten to...
We're just watching the video right now until Cybersmith is ready to come back.
Do you want to stream it to the call so I can watch?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize.
No, all good. If you when you switch, it drops.
Okay, it wasn't just me.
Give me 1 second. I will stream it to the call. Just because I wasn't initially streaming my screen, so when he came in, he would be totally fine to come in. Again, like I said, want to respect the man's time. Hello, Mercury. So Mercury, what you kind of missed is Cybersmith has come into our chat, and wants to do a live interview. So we are just waiting for him to set up and get ready.
Bit of reignited notoriety recently. His face was posted to Twitter a short while ago and it garnered a sizable response. The OP claimed the guy in the photo looked just so jolly and friendly, but the post and the subsequent comment thread revealed who he is and what his unique interests
Cybersmith.
are.
Okay,
the
we're
post
gonna
was most likely bait to
guys.
introduce...
We are gonna pause this live. Our Cybersmith is ready. Cybersmith does want to join. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go pull the display capture up. We are going to hold up. Actually, let me turn the display capture down for a second so I can get it all situated and so I'm not leaking anybody's information. I do not want to do that. All right.
So brave.
It's very kind of you.
Yes.
I want to dox us.
Well, not just you. I also don't want to dox him. I think that that's just like an inappropriate thing to do. I definitely don't want to dox anybody. That's definitely not my intent. Stop streaming right now, and then I will add him to DMs.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. Cybersmith. Hello. Hello. I'm going to. I know that you said that you wanted to show live. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stream the call. Just give me 1 second. First and foremost, I would be remiss in not saying thank you for joining us. You first and foremost did not have to. That is very kind of you. Second off, welcome.
I'm hearing an echo.
Are you hearing an echo?
Wait, no. Pausing the call because it was the call was also open.
Yep.
Oops.
Well.
Yes. Hello. So you first, I guess. Everything good?
Yes. Okay. All is well. Call is playing. Call is muted. The video is muted. So, firstly, sorry, I'm not very well groomed. I was not long back from the gym. I was going to get a bit of hoovering done.
Oh,
Sorry, the place is a little bit of a mess. But no, I have made my name a word of power, and I get the sensation when people speak it.
Oh,
So,
okay.
is the lighting okay? I know there's a lot of backlighting here. As I said, I wasn't at all set up for expecting a stream.
Oh no, so the lighting is perfect. I guess my first question to you is how would you have found the stream? Now you did say that you put your name to power. So my question to you is how would you have found us?
As I said, I have made my name a word of power. When it's spoken, I get the sensation, and when a lot of people are speaking it in quick succession, it's fairly easy to tell. Tracking you down wasn't especially easy, but I found you. So yes, as to what you were saying about display pineapples, this is the fundamental thing that leftoids and Marxists don't understand. Supply is not an intrinsic quality of a commodity. Supply, or rather value, is not an intrinsic quality
one
of a
moment,
commodity.
please.
It
Mhm.
varies
One
in
moment,
accordance
please.
with supply and demand.
Okay.
Falgi, they can't see him.
I put it in there. I fixed the transition. I
is.
do
There
apologize. Yep, I
I'm
do
sorry
apologize
for
about that.
interrupting.
Yes, you can continue with your comments. I do apologize.
So, because value is not intrinsic to commodities, but rather varies depending on supply and demand, the value of a commodity may seem strange to you in one context, but in another context, it makes perfect sense. To you, the idea of displaying a pineapple seems ridiculous. A pineapple is a common everyday item. But I believe that tradition arose after the end of rationing, after the world wars. So you have to understand people who'd just gone through a blockade, who had just gone through rationing, a pineapple was actually quite an exotic thing, quite a difficult to acquire thing. It was a marker of wealth. And like anything that's a mark of wealth, people will tend to ostentatiously display it. For example, in Roman times, and to some extent in medieval times, the colour black was not associated with mourning. That came later. That came in the Victorian period. In medieval and Roman times, it was associated with ostentatious wealth. Why? Because it was extremely expensive to make black materials. You needed either several rounds of dyeing with a very deep ink, usually extracted from squids or the like, or for black leather, you'd either need to dye that or you would need to kill a polar bear, which is one of the only creatures with naturally black skin. So you have to imagine this was a tremendously expensive material. So to wear black wasn't to mark yourself as a morose individual or one undergoing mourning. It was to mark yourself as an individual of conspicuous wealth. I think, as I said, so prepared in a bit of a hurry.
No, you're okay.
No worries.
One of the things I would like to ask you, and I am first and foremost, I want to thank you for that information. It is something that is quite interesting. But I did kind of want to just ask you just a simple question. How did you find yourself on the internet? Obviously, the reason why we were reviewing you, for instance, is that you are famous for a particular Tumblr post. But I'm curious for you, and for no judgment at all, because, hey, there should never be any judgment. You're here. You've come graciously onto our show, and I want to treat you with respect. How did you find yourself on the internet, or specifically in Tumblr? Like, what is your history?
Well, I originally came across Tumblr many, many years ago. I think it was 8 or 9 years ago. Debating one particular vegan blog, but that was through anonymous asks, which were a feature of Tumblr at the time. And eventually I just decided, no, to be fair, I'm also going to create an account. That way this person can see my full opinion and reply to them. That person was called Vegan Wastoid, and she's long since deleted because her other blog, Municipal Wastoid, was attacked by a group of other leftists when she styled her hair into dreadlocks. And this is the common trend you'll see. The left always consumes itself. Soviet Russia collapsed. The French Revolution in France eventually ate its own. This is always the trend with leftoids. Recently, I debated a leftoid, Wack Nicholson. He's been cancelled too.
You also debated Catholics, right?
Who has also been cancelled, yes. Leftoids always consume their own. It is the perennial habit of the Marxist.
So I guess an interesting thing I would say is that, do you believe, you talked about leftoids a lot, and you do talk about leftism and things like that. How would you identify your political leanings, and how would you describe that
I've
to
fairly consistently described my political beliefs. I am a reactionary libertarian monarchist.
Okay. Yes. It's just for our audience who may not know you. I don't particularly know you. This is my first interaction with some of the statements that you've made online. And so, you have, as one of my co-hosts has told me, you have interviewed, or you've debated, individuals like Keffels and other individuals. What do you think about your, let's say, infamy on the internet, specifically for some of your more controversial beliefs, one would say?
Well, I wouldn't say my beliefs are actually that controversial in a historical context, in the broader historical context. But a lot of the controversy comes from people taking them out of context.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say any of my views are actually, on the whole, all that controversial. For example, people have discussed the human pet post, but very few people remember that in its original context, this was a post discussing a fairly narrowly defined concept, which is you will never really be satisfied with public decency laws because really, when we look at it, that's an application of Gödel's incompleteness theorem. Any set of rules that describes anything complex enough to be useful is going to be either incomplete or inconsistent. You can't have a set of rules to regulate what's acceptable public conduct that will not either allow something you don't want to allow or contradict itself by banning something you want to permit.
Mm-hmm.
And this was my example, and that was why my example was drawn up explicitly. You've got no direct showing of genitalia. The treatment of the pet is not something that is actually done, that is not done to normal pets. For example, declawing. Do you know when you declaw a cat, that is literally what you are doing?
Yes.
You are removing the bones in its fingers. So when you realize in its proper context, that debate is not really saying anything controversial at all. It was a response, however, to broader discussions on Tumblr happening at the time that have long since been forgotten and aren't included in the decontextualized screenshots.
And you do understand that declawing specific animals like cats, for instance, is considered in some spaces to be inhumane, correct?
True, but it's not considered a violation of public decency laws.
I see. A
person who declaws his cat is not considered to be violating public decency. And that was the specific context of the argument. It was rules about public decency. And my argument, as part of that broader trend of arguments, is that you can't have a set of laws that will regulate it. You do actually have to involve human judgment. You can't just say, make things illegal if I'm uncomfortable with them. That is never going to produce a coherent body of law.
I saw that one of the examples you named was also breastfeeding.
Again, discussed, but did I ever say it should be illegal? No.
No, you didn't. I'm just saying it was one of the examples you brought up.
Exactly. It was discussed in the context of this is something which could potentially make people uncomfortable or even traumatized, but you can't realistically criminalize it. You do have to defer at some point to human judgment. And this is just the sociological implication of Gödel's. I need to give my hair a trim. It's been a while since I've done that. This is just really the sociological implication of Gödel's incompleteness theorem. You cannot have a set of axioms that produces a worldview which is both consistent and comprehensive. There will either be things that are true but not provable, or there will be contradictions, or in many useful examples, there will be both. This is unfortunately getting into what the limits of the law are. You cannot make a law that effectively legislates your entire moral worldview into effect.
I see.
And that was a discussion I was having with, surprisingly, people on the left on Tumblr.
And if I can ask one more question about the human pet thing, because it was obvious that you put quite some thought into it with the whole thing.
I wouldn't say I put a great deal of thought into it. I'm surprisingly good at improvisational thinking. That entire thing was off the cuff.
Right,
That's really surprising because with cutting the what's the name for it? The ankle thingies.
The Achilles tendon? Yes, that was something I'd been familiar with as an injury that people could sustain in medieval warfare.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I think too, as someone who's worked in improvisational acting and other things like that in the past, it does come from a basis of knowledge. It comes from a basis of understanding and a basis of being able to pull and collate like-minded, not necessarily like-minded ideas, but similar ideas that create a body of work. So in that instance, let's say if you can transport yourself back to when you were creating that response, in what fashion did you, if you can identify what specific I would say reference points helped you create such a strong improvisational response?
I can't recall exactly. You have to remember this was more than 7 years ago now.
Yes, it was.
So I can't possibly remember what exact reference pools I was thinking of at the time for something that happened 7 years ago.
And then I know that over the years, people have identified you, as you said, your name has been spoken to power. What do you think about the way the broader internet identifies you or views you, for instance?
Well, again, it is largely due to events having been taken out of their context, and this is a problem I see with a lot of shallow thinking. And it's the same issue you made with the idea of display pineapples. You're viewing display pineapples from a modern context in which pineapples are not an especially exotic or valuable commodity. The problem is you are failing to take into account the context in which they were viewed as that.
Right, but we are just making fun of an historical context. We can laugh at previous historical context. I wasn't saying that it was a generalization on, let's say, the British people, for instance, because then that would continue to look at the atrocities that individuals have committed long throughout history based on human beings and based on what their forefathers or what their ancestors have done. We can look at things in a satirical manner. I'm sure you yourself have looked at things. I did see.
The problem is that the left has essentially erased the notion of satire as a distinct form of media. You now treat satire largely as news. For example, true or false? Sarah Palin said, "I can see Georgia from my house."
So just to let you know, just as a small interruption.
Answer the question. True or false?
Okay. So you're not going to scream. I did not scream at you. You don't need to scream. It's okay. Just to let you know, this is not a leftist channel per se. Maybe some of us are progressive, for
instance. Has that given you enough time to Google the answer? No,
it doesn't have to give me time to Google the answer. I can see that. I can see that you're a little upset.
Can you answer the question, please? No. Can you answer the question? True or false?
I'm not going to answer the question because I wanted to give context.
Here we see. No. Because this is the problem.
So you asked to come onto the show. And I have been very kind about it, but what I just want to say is just to give you some clarification, because I understand maybe some of our videos maybe have given you a difference of opinion. Yes, some of us may have progressive views, for instance, and it is okay. It's okay to think that.
I'm not talking about specifically progressive views.
Okay, but you continue to say leftoids, and I would just like to clarify.
Yes, I am including you within that. I am including you within that.
That is perfectly fine, but that is not what's happening here. Because I'm trying to explain it to you and you screamed. There was no reason to scream. I am listening to everything that you're saying. And like I said, right?
Answer the question then.
Like I said before, well, I would like to clarify something because you screamed and that's inappropriate. I've never screamed at you and won't scream at you. Okay? This is not a leftist channel. We are asking you questions more around just how the internet views you. So this is not what this channel is about, and that's not what this interview is about. And I do apologize if you think that you have...
Failing to declare your political views doesn't mean you don't have them, and I do challenge you on that point. You've said this is not a left-wing channel.
No, it's not.
I think I could argue, right, so how do you avoid your own views biasing it? Because I think it's fair to say all of you are on board.
I think
I'm here for the first time. I'm no centrist.
It's very, very simple to say that, yes, we all look at things from a political standpoint, but if you would like to have a political argument, we are not the channel for that. I can direct you to a channel, channels like Westside Tyler or other instances, those are political channels. What we are here is, this is for the purposes of satire. This is just the purposes of understanding internet history, and maybe even quote unquote people like to say drama. I don't like to use that term.
Here is my objection.
Okay.
You have used this term satire as though it's some inherently apolitical concept. But my argument is that because the modern woke cultural Marxist fake news left uses satire to launder its views, so to speak, even in ways that are considered apolitical, that makes the concept of satire as something that is inherently non-political and at best outdated notion. And this has been true for decades now. And that is why I would like you to answer the question.
So you're using
true or false?
Okay.
Sarah Palin said she could see Georgia from her house.
So that wasn't, she did not say Georgia specifically, but we're not going to go there, right?
No, she didn't say any of that specifically.
So again,
Faye said it when pretending to be her on Saturday Night Live. That was satire, and yet it influenced how people thought about Sarah Palin, which influenced, I believe, to some extent, the 2008 presidential election in the Land of the Eagle. So no, I do not believe you get to rope off satire and say, well, this isn't political because it's satire. So a large number of people of this generation get their news from people like John Oliver, or Spitting Image, or Jon Stewart,
or Ben Shapiro, or Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk
does not claim, and Charlie Kirk does not claim to be engaging in satire. Jon Stewart,
right? But they are satirical in the nature of their lies, though. No, they aren't. If we're going to say that, right?
They aren't engaging in satire. They are very open
journalists
about
either.
They call themselves journalists. The problem is that Jon Stewart. John Oliver, Spitting Image, all these fake news, Illuminati, cultural Marxist lying bastards, they call themselves satirists. They call themselves comedians. Stephen Colbert called himself a comedian, but his actions are influencing political perceptions. So someone like Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk is perfectly straightforward. He'll say to you very honestly, I am a political actor. I am engaging in political punditry. My actions have a definite political bias. And I am quite happy to call myself a conservative or a right-winger or a reactionary. There's no dishonesty there. They are quite openly calling themselves political, and they are quite clearly coming from a right-wing perspective. My argument is that the left continuously uses the shroud of satire, the mask of satire, to conceal its nefarious agenda.
Well, would you not also say that someone like Steven Crowder, for instance, uses a lot of satirical nature in their media consumption, and as well as their media portrayal? That's something that was always been a part. He has always claimed to be a comedian of some kind. That's always been a part of his portrayal of the news, that he sees it. And I don't think, personally speaking,
he has never used being a comedian as a defense. If we consider, for example,
that's very incorrect. That is okay. So I'm going to call. That's not correct. Okay, so he's used that. He has used that multiple times when he makes racist caricatures of people, but not going too far into politics. Because again, this is not a political sphere. Again, I can recommend you. I can.
This is my problem. You say you're not getting into. You say you're not being political, but that's the same thing Jon Stewart said in his infamous interview with Tucker Carlson.
Okay, so
that was the same argument. I'm not being political. I'm just being funny. Well, you are to some extent being political, and you're using comedy as the mask from which you project these political attempts to undermine Western civilization.
So Cybersmith, I want to ask you a question, because you had a very stark reaction when I was trying to explain the nature of our channel, as well as you've been having a very stark reaction now. And this is coming from a place of a genuine honesty. I kind of get the sense that you feel like you've been dealt a bad hand by the internet in some way, shape, and form, because I
feel like humanity has been dealt a bad hand by the internet.
Yes,
the internet, through decontextualization, although it is in some respects a fantastic tool for people to inform themselves with, has in many ways become a biased instrument with which to mislead people. For example, consider the effects of the Google search engine algorithm and how much that has affected what news sources people see and how it affects people's common perceptions.
Hmm.
Google will promote certain sources, which are often the only sources people look at,
Hmm.
that promotes a certain view of the world, a certain view of individual figures,
Hmm.
and a certain way of considering reality that has, in many cases, damaged, I believe, people's understanding of the world.
Hmm.
The modern generation, the Gen Z, as they're called, or even Gen Alpha, they are less technically literate than even younger millennials like myself. I'm actually, well, I'm either a very young millennial or I'm very old Gen Z. I'm either the oldest Zoomer or the youngest millennial.
How old
I
are
was
you,
born
if you
in
don't mind me asking?
2005.
Oh, okay.
That's common knowledge. I was born in 1995. So some
Okay.
people that say that that's the cutoff point
You're
for
younger than me.
millennials. Yeah, some people would say that's the cutoff point for being a millennial. Some would say,
Yeah.
well, you're a Generation Z if you were between 1995 and 2005. So that's kind of the issue that you're running into. But my generation, my year, that was essentially the last year in which there are going to be computer literate people. Modern people, they use technology, but they don't understand it. If you look at a child trying to use a file system now, they don't really understand how, because they've never had to interact with one. They've used apps that interact directly with it. They've used programs that have their own file types and their own direct way of interacting with those file types. A lot of people can't, let alone can't use a simple WIMP interface, so Windows icons,
Right.
mouse and pointer, much less anything like a command line interface. So I think in many respects, the way the internet has been used by these manipulative organizations that work for the Illuminati and that serve the global left has been a tremendous detriment to human flourishing. And I think many people have been dealt a bad hand. The human race has been dealt a bad hand by the internet.
So, but again,
I always say the new generation got soft because they don't get read horrifying fairy tales.
that
We
is,
just had this discussion earlier because they don't get read horrifying German fairy tales.
yes, the horrifying German fairy tales would fix the youth of today. That is correct. But one thing, and this is, again, and you explained yourself very well. Do you yourself feel like you've been dealt a bad hand by the internet, the way the internet perceives you at large?
To some extent, yes, but I recognize that as being part of a broader trend.
And I guess this is my question
in
to
the
you.
same way, I recognize your claim to be satire as part of a broader trend.
Okay. So again, just asking you, have you yourself, how have you dealt with something like this? Honestly speaking, how have you dealt with some
I'm
of the
dealing with
notoriety?
it right now.
Okay. I mean, sure, you're coming on to us, and we do appreciate that. But again, my question to you is, how have you dealt with it in your everyday life? For instance, have people ever recognized you, or when you go on the internet? Because I do know, if memory serves me correctly, you had said that Cybersmith at one time was banned off specific platforms for some of his views or opinions. Is that correct, Tim?
You'll know that I've had multiple Tumblr accounts. You'll note that that Tumblr account is not the one I use now. I am now the Cybersmith. That was part of the lot of accounts that were deleted from Tumblr. And of course, I've gone through several. Well, they were called Twitter accounts back then. Now X accounts, but thankfully Elon's been a lot less censorious. So absolutely, there is a problem. I think another issue with the internet is you have to look at patterns of behavior, and this is something software developers have to consider.
Right.
What is the path of least resistance on the internet? And I think part of the issue with how we communicate with each other online, it's not just that algorithms tend to filter us towards people who are like ourselves. It's far too easy to block people online. And this results in some sense, the modern generation being, although they have the greatest ability to communicate, in practice, they are the most ideologically sheltered group that there's ever been. Because consider, for example, some peasant farmer in the 1200s. Who would that person's social group be? Well, it would be the farmers next door. It would be the blacksmith in the local village. It would be the miller he sold his grain to. It would be the local lord. Now, if those people had political views that didn't align with his, or religious views that didn't align with his, or ideological views or philosophical views that didn't align with his, There's nothing really he could do about it. That was the only social circle he had. So your average 1200s peasant probably had more intellectual diversity in his social group than the modern internet person, who just blocks anyone with whom that person disagrees and then is directed by an algorithm to other people who are in ideological lockstep.
So my
This is
question.
the problem.
So sorry to interrupt
we are not
you.
challenged intellectually because unless we actively do what I do, which is seek out people with opposing political views, we don't speak to people who don't agree with us
Okay.
because of the Illuminati.
Okay, that's
Illuminati?
Illuminati. So you are of the belief, and you don't have to wax poetic on this. It's just a yes or no. You're of the belief that there is a global elite of some kind that is separating
New World
humanity. Is
Order.
that New World Order? Correct.
I'd say belief, but you can literally go to their websites and the videos they make. The Davos group is not a secret conspiracy. They openly exist.
Yeah, well,
You've
I'm just
got
saying
the World
there are some
Economic
people that don't
Forum, you've
believe
got
that.
the Bilderberg Society. It is very well known that these people exist, and they will admit to their plans in the open. I don't think you can. So, is it a belief they exist? Well, yes, they definitely do.
So I guess, Cybersmith, if you don't mind me asking then, and it's a little bit of a divert, but I am genuinely curious, what are some of the things that you do in your own time for instance, either hobbies or things for yourself? Because I think if I can just expand a little bit on what you've been saying about people not understanding, people that don't agree with one another, things like that nature, I'm very curious how you, what do you do in your normal life? Because I think that the sentiment that I'm getting is that from you specifically, a lot of people have judged you on the internet per se for specific takes that you have. Now, I don't agree with them, and that's completely fine.
No,
I don't have to agree with them.
They aren't judging me on takes I have. They're judging me on decontextualized items. For example, you'd never seen my YouTube channel before I linked you this comment. You were going to make an entire video about me.
Well, I had seen the YouTube channel. It was in there. It was in there. We were just double checking that it was attached to your channel. I did see that you spoke about Atlantis, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so if you see my video, you'll know what some of my hobbies are.
Okay. Well, I'm asking
you. Can you name some?
I'm asking
you. Should know if you've
seen
my YouTube channel. You should know. For example, what baking is one. I've made multiple videos about my baking. I recently uploaded a video of some some rolls that I made on my X account. But that's the thing. You don't actually look at my account. You don't look at the videos I post. You would know the answer to that question.
One of your hobbies.
Wait,
you also posted some of your cooking pictures on your.
Yes,
you did. So on your Twitter.
So you do actually know you do know quite a bit about my hobbies, or you would if you looked at the accounts, but you don't.
So
what you're
I am
mostly
asking
looking at is screenshots other people have taken,
I will be honest.
decontextualized examples.
If you could listen for a moment, if I'm honest, I'm the one who actually followed you for quite some time, and so the others here don't know that much about you.
So we are being introduced. But honestly,
because this was a stream where I would introduce you to them, so I showed a few things to them, and we were going to go into depth about it. And so it's very nice that we have you here, so we can ask about the things we don't understand. Right. Because in writing, you don't often know what goes on in the person's head, and now we have the chance to ask you directly.
Right, and I would like to say this. I understand that you are upset, and that's okay. And I do want to say this first and foremost. It's okay to be upset that you feel like that people don't understand you and things like that, right? But the reason that I'm asking you those things is there are people that don't know that, and they know your face, for instance. And like I've said previously, if you watched part of the stream, first and foremost, I'm going to compliment you on your facial hair. I do want to kind of get that out of the way. I do think that is a labor of love. By the way,
I had to go and rapidly shave all the stubble off. So sorry that for the bit of a delay. I was fine. Not long back from the gym and started hoovering when I realized people were talking about me.
Right, and honestly speaking, that I can tell that that's a labor of love of some kind. That is a fully involved experience. And I guess that's my question to you is that what do you want the internet to know about you as a person, and not just the screenshots of things? Again, some of the things that you may have said, I don't agree with, and that's okay. Or just the way that you presented the materials and information, totally fine. but I am genuinely curious. What are the things that you would want people to know about you as a person, not you as the idea?
You act as though those things are separate, but as I said, I've made my name a word of power.
Mm-hmm.
How does a man transcend himself if not by becoming an idea?
Okay. Again, but you also said in your own admission that the internet is controlled, right? That the way that people are perceived on the internet and almost segregated on the internet is it's influenced, correct?
But the way it uses that influence is by creating a path of least resistance and trusting that people will follow that path.
So again, my personal question to you is, what do you want people to know about you? Listen, again, we don't have to agree at the end of this conversation. That's not really the point of this. But I think something that one of the chatters did say that I think is interesting is that it is very interesting in a way that part of the way that your name did come to power in one sense was not of your own design. It was people finding certain things about you and proliferating that onto the internet. And commendable that you've taken that and made it your own thing. But again, what would you want people to know about you?
Well, one thing, I do engage in creative writing. I actually engage in poetry sometimes. For example, later tonight I've got a game going. It's if everyone shows up, it'll be a normal session of Pathfinder, and I tend to document those when I'm in a game. And for this group, I tend to write a poem for every session. But it looks like someone's going to be missing it, so we're going to try out the new Starfinder second edition rules.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. I actually, as a game master myself, and I know one of our individuals here, Greg. He's currently away from his computer right now. I know that he also plays games, but Pathfinder, that's a very nice. Is a module that I've been trying to get into, but just haven't had the time to read through, as my history is more with Dungeons and Dragons and running games for those and people who are not too familiar with tabletop games. And that's it's really kind that you that you write poetry based on your game sessions. How did you get into that?
That's a real cool extra.
A little bit, I suppose. Back in school, I used to I used to write poetry for English class. It was something I found quite frustrating at the time, but later on, I did a little bit as a hobbyist, but mostly prose, mostly a prose.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. So would you, I mean, if it's too personal, it is okay, but would you mind sharing us a piece of your poetry?
Well, there's something you can, again, if you follow me on Tumblr, let's see if I can pick up.
Well, again, I admittedly I don't. I
I think I'm the only one that follows you.
Yeah, admittedly, I don't use Tumblr at all.
Poetry. So with my more recent parts, this was actually inspired by. This didn't end up being in the session write-up, but it was something I thought about from Pathfinder. So I'll send you that. I'll send you,
and I will pull it up on stream.
Here we go.
Yeah, have you shared it here?
That link.
Okay. Did you put it in here? Okay. I will put this in. Sorry, chat. We're just going to get into this real quick. I do want to give Cybersmith obviously the props that he deserves if he writes poetry. That's honestly speaking something that, as someone who doesn't really use Tumblr, I did not know about you, and I do think that is and interesting. It says URL not found, just as a heads up.
I've reset that.
Let's try that again. Oh, there we go. All right.
So that was inspired by thinking about what the world might look like to creatures with low light vision, which is slightly distinct from dark vision. And one of the reasons I don't particularly care for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition is that it compressed low light vision and dark vision into the same thing, which in my opinion significantly degrades the quality of the game and how you think about light sources.
Very fascinating. Do you mind if I read this on stream to our listeners who are currently watching? Because some of them may
Feel
not
free.
be able to. Okay, I'm just going to read it. The poem is called Ode to the Brightness of Midnight. By the pale blue light of the moon, my love, by the pale blue light of the moon, I shall come to dance with you soon, my love, by the pale blue light of the moon. For the stars, they shine in the sky, my dear, and the sea water glistens below. So shed not one tear, and don't cry, my dear, as the mountaintops blaze white with snow. The lights of the night shine so brightly, my heart, in a way quite distinct from the day. By midnight, I see things quite rightly, my heart, as it chases the shadows away. I'll meet you in time, 'neath the moon, my sweet. Yes, we lovers shall reconcile then. I'll visit by starlight cover, my sweet, until dawn comes to part us again. Honestly, that is very nice. I will say this. I would be remiss in saying that your poetry is quite heartfelt. And I do think that is a nice thing to show. And I guess to expand upon that, when did you for yourself find that poetry was a creative outlet specifically for your Pathfinder games or any of the games that you ran?
Well, that was I'd say over the past few years. I first started, I think, playing Pathfinder in 2019. My first real exposure to TTRPGs back then. So I guess that would be when that started. But yeah, I've engaged in creative writing on and off for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And then how do your players react to this? I'm very curious, is this a group of friends that you've been with for many years? Do you play games for newcomers? I'm curious how you find your players.
Almost entirely online. There are various ways. A lot of places have sources for people looking
Right.
for groups.
Right.
But sometimes you find it through word of mouth. Sometimes from
Mm-hmm.
it's someone from an older game you were with recommends you to a newer game.
Mm-hmm.
So all sorts of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Discord is pretty useful for that.
Yeah, Discord is very useful for that. And it'd be remiss for me to not to ask you this. But for you specifically, it seems like creative writing, for instance, and being creative on the internet is something that you honestly take pride in. If you're showing that and you display that onto the internet, is that something that you do in your normal everyday life as a part of your job? Obviously, you don't have to reveal what you do for work if you don't wish to, but I'm curious if that's a part of your everyday life.
No, people tend to be surprised if they've encountered my my creative writing first. But I worked as a tutor for computing science, and I've worked as a software developer. I don't engage in that much, nor in my daily life. I've also been told I have quite an interest and a knowledge of history. I really don't. I'm a dilettante in that respect, but that's still more than a lot of other people, sadly.
Yeah, I think people get that impression a lot because you talk a lot about monarchy and ancient Rome, for example. I think that's how many people get that impression.
Well, yes, but that's having a basic awareness of the past, which is something that I think most people have, and certainly most people who were expected to have any impact on public policy were expected to know, even if we go back just 80 years. Now, I think the only major example of a person who, by the standards of even up to 80 years ago, today would be considered an educated politician would be someone like Boris Johnson. That was not considered an extraordinary amount of knowledge to have about history. That was considered a reasonable baseline, and most people today, including myself, fall far short of that. We are perhaps the most historically ignorant generation ever. Certainly, if you look amongst those of us who we consider to be educated and whom we empower to make decisions about public policy, we are by far and away the most historically ignorant generation that there's ever been, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you said you mentioned Boris Johnson, and it's a very interesting time in politics. And this is not a political channel, but I do know that his departure from his seat of power was met with.
This is not an explicitly political channel, though. As I've mentioned, I believe you are probably more political than you care to think.
Oh, I can say that I'm probably more political than I care to think, but I would say that such as questions of asking you about your Pathfinder experience.
Archaeology wasn't a thing until the past 100 years, dudes. It absolutely was.
Okay.
Napoleon's expedition had archaeologists in the late 1700s.
Mm-hmm.
Napoleon's expedition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what I would say is that, like you mentioned before, yes, I can admit that I have my own political leanings, but the reason I honestly wanted to bring you on and have some of these questions, and I do understand what Moy's saying, not necessarily by the modern.
What do you mean, not to modern standards?
Okay. Well,
that's not saying that they didn't engage in archaeology. That's saying they didn't engage in modern woke leftist historical revisionism.
Okay.
Modern standards.
Cybersmith, you can argue with my chat when we are done speaking. I would just like to know more about you. I completely understand that you have opinions on many political things, but I wanted to say again, the reason that I wanted to bring you on was not to necessarily judge you by either your political leanings or some of the statements you said. It's just all honestly to get a deeper understanding about knowing who you are as a person. I do think that's listen, again, we don't have to agree on everything. There's certainly things I don't agree on with you, but from what I can kind of gather from the cursory information that I know about you, I don't think people necessarily readily know about your poetry. I know that you post it, but that's more for the people who follow you for different reasons, whether it be positive or otherwise. I think that there is a lot of what's going on. Moist, you're fine. You're fine, dear. Don't worry about it.
I also have one question that's kind of random, but are you familiar with Tipster?
Familiar, yes. I believe we've spoken a few times. He was on Keffel's Discord a number of times, so I'm familiar with him. We've spoken in passing.
Do you have any opinion about him?
Not much. I can't say I've ever really looked at his content. I understand he's a woke leftist Marxist, like most of you.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a bit of I like
He's
to call him a
cringe.
skinwalker.
Yeah,
He's cringe, exactly.
He
He's a
is
bit of a
very cringe,
skinwalker.
Yeah.
Fuck that dude.
But I guess
again, the left eats its own. Same thing happened to Robespierre.
I'm not a leftist, so I can say it.
Again, everybody eats their own, but that's not the point of this conversation, right? But I did have something very curious to ask you, right? So you found yourself on a stream like Keffel's, for instance. How did you find yourself on that? Explain to our audience how you found yourself on a platform like that.
Oh, I believe she was going to interview Bird Respector, but he was having technical issues, and he asked if I could do it instead, so I did it instead.
Mm-hmm. And how did you feel about that overall experience? Again, this kind of ties into a little bit of the curiosity that I have about you, right? Because, and take this by no disrespect, in the grander internet circles, right? If we're looking at internet speak for say, some would consider you a lolcow in some regards. But again, I'm just more curious as to how you would find yourself on that platform, and how do you feel about said notoriety, irregardless of how you've transitioned to it.
Regardless or irrespective. Irregardless is not a word.
I know I say the word incorrectly. I do apologize, but regardless of that, thank you very much. So
I think
when
they
you
meant
found
that
your
archaeology is more high tech nowadays, Sanderson Shaw.
okay,
Well, by that standards, Indiana Jones wasn't an archaeologist, and if Indiana Jones wasn't an archaeologist, then no one is an archaeologist.
so Cybersmith, can we just answer the question real quick? I would just appreciate if we can ignore the chat for a little bit. If you want to
What was the
rejoin the
question
chat.
again?
So my question was, it very simply, people would consider you, and by no disrespect, I said this again, a lolcow by internet standards. And you found yourself on a stream of Keffels, and while I don't agree with a lot of her takes and whatever that may be, I'm very curious how you found yourself there. You did express that before, and how you felt about that experience overall, and the grander experience of how the people view you on the internet.
Well, I think how people view me on the internet, and something that showed me, was a lot of people who consider themselves quite educated about politics, and who speak on it, are profoundly ignorant about a great number of things, and perhaps worryingly don't realize how ignorant they are. And there's the old graph of as your knowledge about something goes up, your awareness of how much you don't know about that increases. So there's a sort of an unfortunate stable point where you have very little knowledge and a great deal of self-confidence. And I think I've fallen victim to that, but so have a lot of other important topics.
And how would you identify that you've fallen victim to that same fact?
Well, interesting example would be a lot of people have called me a fascist, or argue that I'm in favor of government restrictions, because they don't understand very much about the history of monarchism. Take Keffels, for example, who assumed that monarchies were inherently authoritarian. But throughout most of history, when monarchies have given way to republicanism, the result has been far more authoritarian. For example, did you know there were fewer than 1,000 total Okhrana agents in all of Soviet Russia when the Tsar was in charge, in all of Tsarist Russia, rather, before the Soviet Union was established? And they were almost all focused in Moscow, and the people they were looking at would be the people the Soviets would consider bourgeoisie intellectuals. They weren't spying on individual peasants and trying to control what individual Russian peasants did. Your political freedom in Russia was way higher as a peasant under the Tsar than it would have been as a proletariat under the Soviet Union.
So I have a question for you. Are there any things on the internet, and if you can't express on it, are there any things that you would take back that you have said? And this is not, let's say, in regards to, I don't agree with this take. You could say that you don't agree with that statement now. That's perfectly fine. But do you think that there are parts of how you have showed yourself on the internet that you wish you could take back? And if there are, what are those things?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember them exactly. There have probably been times that I've been rude to people or thoughtless to people that I would generally try to take back. I've probably had bad days where I've been irritable and I've said something unpleasant to someone, and I would take that back. I do try to be a cordial person towards people who whenever possible.
Yeah, and I think that that was evident. I understand that you were a little bit heated before, but you've been cordial with me this entire time, and I do want to again express that appreciation. The reason I ask is that there are some times where infamy, let's use it as the term that it is, can be it can be daunting. I guess that leads into another question. When did you first find out that you were somewhat infamous on the internet specifically? I'm curious.
Well, you have to remember I was on Tumblr was when the human pet post initially spread, but I was pretty well known even before that for other comments that I'd made and other disagreements I had. I'd been on Tumblr for, I think, about a year maybe before that post happened, and I was fairly well known there for other things I'd said. So that things people had taken out of context as well there. So that wasn't a huge surprise to me.
But as we are talking of it today, how did you feel about it as it was happening in the process of this? As you said, the Tumblr post, the human pet post specifically, is about 7 or 8 years ago, if I remember correctly. And I'm curious, in that 7 to 8 year time span, how have you viewed the way that your notoriety increased on the internet? Was there some trepidation? Was there joy? Were there drawbacks to it? I'm very curious how your experience was.
As I said, because I was mostly engaging via Tumblr, I wouldn't say it was too bad. It's been annoying sometimes. There are cases where people have seen out of context things I've said, and they've concluded, "Oh, you must be a terrible person," and I've been kicked out of groups or banned from places without a chance to explain any of that. But I think that's largely due to those people being censorious woke Marxists who work for Red China. So that's probably in that case inevitable. Those are just people who refuse to hear any other worldview or any other perspective. There are probably some people who would have been willing to approach me and have interesting conversations if it weren't for the notoriety. But I think on the whole, I've probably had more interesting conversations because of notoriety than I've missed interesting conversations, all things considered.
And I'm curious, you said that there was a moment where you were barred or taken out of groups, for instance. Can you recall a specific time that happened and how that made you feel?
Well, one example would be the Pathfinder 2 subreddit on Reddit. I made a number of posts there that were actually quite popular and well received, but I was kicked out of that group for no explanation. Well, actually, the explanation was you haven't broken any of our rules, but things you've posted elsewhere make us dislike you, so we're done. So that's largely just due to Reddit mods being tyrannical. So that was them acknowledging you haven't broken any of our rules. All of your posts here have been perfectly valid. There's nothing on Reddit you've done, but we don't like things we've seen that have been taken out of context elsewhere. But that is, that's the woke mind virus. That is the same ideology that led the Jacobins to kill the king in France. It's the same ideology that led to the overthrow of the Tsar in Russia. It's the same ideology that got all of those people killed by the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. It's a disaster every time.
I see. And what would you... I guess this is an interesting question that I did see somebody in the audience previously say, but I do want to ask you, you do reference Marxism and leftism a lot. And they can be two somewhat separate ideals at points.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm considering leftism in its most, in the broadest sense. Marxism is a specific manifestation of it. So you can also call into example Jacobinism, Whiggery. You can look at wokeism, DEI, political correctness. There have been many manifestations throughout the years. I would say they all broadly fit into the leftist spectrum, if you will, that spectrum of political beliefs. But if we're going to talk about what specifically would make someone Marxist, and that specific misunderstanding you have, and I think it does derive from that belief in the value theory or the labor theory of value, and the idea that labor intrinsically embodies something with value. So the idea that a pineapple is intrinsically worth something rather than it's worth being determined by the context by a broader context.
Okay. I think one of the things I did want to ask you is, obviously,
you really need a haircut.
I think your hair I listen, I said this. I understand that you wear the bowler hats. In every picture that I've seen you, I saw your hair and I was like, oh, he has a really nice head of hair. You do have a nice head of hair. I hope you show that off more often. Personally speaking. But I do think your hair looks fine right now. But I am curious about some things that you have said on the internet. And just kind of, if you want to wax poetic on it, and we can kind of have a conversation on it. So in October 22nd of 2023, in a response, you said, femboys actually being oppressed by trans women or vice versa is a very sexy premise for erotica. However, all things in moderation and in their proper place. My question to you is this, because I have seen some people on the internet and other screenshots claim fetishes upon you. I'm very curious how you feel about that conversation in regards to what some things assume about you, specifically within a sexual nature. You obviously do not have to share unless you
Trying
want to share
remember
those
the
things.
context of that conversation, but yeah, I think it was someone claiming that it didn't exist, and so that was me adding the disclaimer that whether or not it exists, it could be an interesting premise for a story. But then the debate was about how common is this, and you'll get different debates from different people. But I think this gets back into what we were talking about with internet groups that are kind of self-filtering and result in, because of woke Illuminati algorithms, result in people talking to people who already agree with them. You can have extensive discussion from hundreds of people about what they consider to be a common cultural issue, and you'll find out they're talking about a very niche subculture that exists in the internet, or even just a very niche subculture that exists on one site. And that is something you have to be wary of. Is this a broader sociological trend, or is this something that exists in a very narrow context, but is still real within that context? They're not making it up. It's just something that will be an experience for them that won't be an experience for most people.
So I guess
So if I could ask, excuse
sorry.
me,
Sorry, dude,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
want to interrupt you, but if I can ask you something. You speak a lot about how people nowadays are very narrow-minded with their political beliefs and things, and don't really want to intermix with different opinions. And yet you kind of flew off the handle and accused us are all leftists and didn't want to discuss it. I said tell you
But I
you're
still
quite
talked to you,
a
didn't I? I've denounced you all as communists, but I'm still talking to you.
yeah,
I
but
just want
yet
to
you
be.
made
I just want to be clear about where they stand. I'm not saying we should not discuss with people who disagree with us. I'm just saying we should all be honest about where we stand.
So I think what Du is trying to say is you have denounced us all as communists, right? And not everybody here is politically leaning left. Some may have more progressive views than others, and that's perfectly fine. But then my follow-up question to you then would be, would that not be the same thing people are doing to you on the internet?
Question: do you think people who don't own land should be allowed to vote?
So
All of you can answer that, please.
So that's I don't really want to answer a question with a question. I would just
I'm not trying to debate you on that
Yeah.
point. I'm just trying to establish what everyone's
yes,
political
people
views
who
are.
don't own land should be able to vote.
Communist. You, the person in red, Uncool Greg. What's your answer to that question?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk to you.
That's fair. That's fair. Greg is just here just to relax. Again, if you're going to continue to, I'm asking you the question personally. You are telling us that we are communists, okay?
And
But
you are then. So yes, I think that's fair, and you are free to disabuse me of this notion. Do any of you hold any right-wing beliefs at all?
again, Cybersmith.
Like I said, I'm not really interested in politics.
Yeah.
I'll be completely honest with that. Like I said, I'm much in the middle. There are things I agree and disagree with, but I don't know where I would land on the political checkboard.
So again, not to derail, I don't think that you're trying to debate us, but I don't want to miss from the point of the conversation and the question.
It's not so much that I'm trying to debate you on those points. It's I think everyone should be honest about where they stand, and I think a lot of people who would describe themselves as being apolitical have just to some extent absorbed the dominant view of the cultural milieus in which they exist. For example, let's say someone existed in ancient Greece, and this person held as a perfectly normal perspective that it was right and proper to sacrifice good meat to the gods while people went hungry. Would you describe that as an apolitical belief?
That's a good question.
What was the question
They
again?
probably wouldn't really
Let's go with
question
that.
it. It would just be a common thing in their society. But I think if we were to look back on that, if we were to consider context, we would probably say this is a political belief that they did not examine or think of as political. But if you transcribe that person to our society, that would be an immensely political belief. So I think the only real solution is to try to consider your beliefs in context and recognize to what extent they actually are political. And that requires some degree of introspection. I think a lot of people who consider themselves apolitical have actually just not really examined their beliefs. They have just realized, oh, I've reproduced the beliefs of the society in which I grew up, and I don't consider that to be political. But in many cases, I think those are extremely political opinions. Another common example would be slavery. That same Greek person would probably find the issue of slavery uncontroversial and indeed apolitical. But if we look at other historical contexts, the question of being pro or anti-slavery might be immensely political, and arguably always was political. It's just if you're inside a context that doesn't think of it as a political question, you're likely not to analyze it as one or refer to it as one. So I'm not so sure that you are apolitical. I think you've absorbed the Illuminati dogma you grew up with, and you are in fact very left-wing by a broader historical context. You're certainly to the left of most people who have ever existed in all of human history.
Well, yes, that makes sense. I mean, to be fair, that would make sense because we did have slavery. That's quite literally a non-argument. Not to be rude, but that's just a fact, though. But
people who considered themselves to have slavery would not have considered that a political argument in ancient Greece.
Of course.
So
we live in the year in 2024. Okay, so this is not disregarding history. This is just explaining that we have learned from history. That's why slavery is illegal now. But that's.
But you have to consider that one day people will consider you and your beliefs to be a part of history. Imagine someone looking back from 3024, 1,000 years in the future. How might they consider you and your position in history? And this is why I believe my perspective is a little more honest. I've tried to consider where my beliefs fit inside a broader framework. And that's why I don't describe myself as apolitical. I describe myself as a reactionary libertarian monarchist.
In 1,000 years, we will all be dead, and it won't matter.
This is true.
But we still consider the importance of political decisions and political views of people who've been dead for 1,000 years. We're still living in the wake of the actions of people like William the Conqueror and their political beliefs. Right. So I don't think it's so easy to say that it doesn't matter what your beliefs are in a historical context. So that's why I do challenge you on this claim that you are apolitical. I think it is more likely you have reproduced the beliefs of the context in which you grew up, and you have never analyzed them, and you have never really thought about what your belief in those ideas means for you as a person.
But you're making presumptions to people you don't know.
Yeah, and that's something that we're trying
These are preconceived notions that you yourself are
Which I was very honest. You are free to disabuse me of this notion, but it is a reasonable conclusion to draw.
But what I am saying
if you
is...
want to disabuse me of this notion, please name any right-wing belief that you hold. And none of you have been able to do so.
I am a former veteran, and I believe in owning firearms.
So did Karl Marx.
And so I can own weapons. I do own weapons. That is a right-wing belief.
It's a very right-wing belief here in the U.S.
It's a populist belief, not so much a right-wing one.
So if we're going to argue semantics, let's argue the semantics of what you are doing. What you're stating is the same thing the internet is doing to you, right? We can say that. Now, I can tell you that claiming everybody is a communist who doesn't agree with you or has differing opinions with you is probably not the best thing, and why people view you as a lolcow in certain regards of the internet. Again,
everyone who disagrees with me with a communist, I call you for specifically communists.
Yeah, and we are people that disagree with you and you have no idea our political beliefs. But that's what I'm trying to get at, Cybersmith. That's what I want to get at. Right?
I actually have a very good idea of your political beliefs.
It is political tribalism.
All of you believe slavery is wrong. That's an intensely political belief that's been debated hotly, even in your own countries.
Yeah,
that was debated hotly.
But Greek slavery was also not chattel slavery, though. Right?
It was
but it was not.
Arguably, it was worth. So you couldn't sacrifice your chattel. You couldn't sacrifice chattel slaves to the gods.
So Cybersmith,
believe me, look at the Greek system of slavery. It was incredibly.
So Cybersmith, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in slavery?
Do I believe that it existed, or
no? Do you support slavery? Yes or no?
Do you support it? Do you agree with it?
Because that is how you're phrasing the question. So it's okay. Hey, listen, no judgment. Do you support slavery?
Not universally, no.
Okay. Can you
But there you
expand
go.
on that? Well, can you expand on
can
that
I
then?
finish my statement as to why I believed I had a good idea of your political views?
No,
So,
no,
well,
because
well,
unfortunately,
here's the issue.
what I've
You're
noticed.
challenging my belief as being unreasonable, but you're not allowing me to explain how I got to it.
Well, you have said that we are unreasonable multiple times, and
I've said that you are not introspective.
Okay.
You are not really considering the
Okay.
context in which your
That is a
beliefs
presumption.
arose.
That is a presumption. What a
A
lot
presumption you are free to disabuse me
Right,
of by
right, and we
at any
and we all
time.
have. It doesn't need to be a necessarily right-wing belief, but again, that's what the internet does to you, and what we are trying to get. What I'm trying to get at. I can't speak for my co-hosts, but I will say that what I'm trying to get at for you is why that is important in this conversation, because that is what a lot of people have done towards you. Now, you are espousing some of the beliefs here today and standing by them. Like you said that you don't universally agree with slavery. That is a statement. I will say that. But that's kind of why I'm not trying to bring the politics into this discussion, because it does feel like, if I may, it's a little bit of a dog whistle for you to be angry at somebody, right? And it's a little bit of a dog whistle for everybody to be angry at somebody. And
What
that's
is a dog whistle to be angry at someone? A dog whistle is something, well, in its strictest sense, it is a frequency that only a dog can hear. But in the more general term, a dog whistle is a signal that only some people will understand. Who am I dog whistling to when I'm angry at you?
You are saying that specifically us disagreeing with you is a way of signaling you specifically that those individuals are leftoids, that we are part of a Marxist regime, right? And honestly speaking, I just wanted to know more about you, less on your opinions on Greece and slavery, because what we were examining was not necessarily your political beliefs per se, but the statements that you've made on the internet and the way that you make the statements currently. I understand, and it is something that I don't want to say sad about, but part of me feels for you. I feel a level of empathy. And you can disavow that empathy. You can say that you don't like it. But I do feel
I have no problem with empathy. But
Yeah.
my argument is empathy is as an action, it is trying to understand others. But there is also, I think, a degree of importance in trying to understand yourself, or at least trying to understand the context in which you have your ideas. And it is very specifically someone who calls themselves apolitical, in my experience, within the current context we exist, is very likely to be someone who is extremely left-wing and simply does not realize it. And I've taken slavery as an example. That's a political belief that you don't consider to be political. You, even though it has been at various times an intensely political debate, you oppose slavery to I would consider perhaps an excessive degree. And you asked about condemning slavery universally. One form of slavery I think that might be reasonable to consider is debt slavery or indenturement, because what we have in our society is essentially no way out of debt for people with bad credit ratings. There is no way to restore your credit rating past a certain point. People end up stuck in a trap where they can't undo it. And part of that is, if you have no assets, you have no way to pay off your debts. Historically, there was a way to do this in certain societies like Rome, where you could indenture yourself to pay off debts. And this gave people, if they were willing to work hard on, for example, become gladiators, they could work their way out of the debt trap, and eventually they could reach the point of emancipation and fully pay off their debts and re-enter society as free citizens. We don't have that escape route now, and now a lot of people end up trapped in debts they can't escape because we uncritically said all slavery is bad. We completely got rid of it. And people never considered that to be a political belief. So the question of reintroducing it never re-entered political discussion. And this is why calling something
Right.
apolitical can be a bit of a thought-terminating cliche, if you see my argument.
Okay. So again, I hear what you're saying. I think that there's a lot of things that the chat has asked, because a lot of, again, like I said before, a lot of us wanted to know more about you as the
your
person.
chat.
Some people wanted to know. I can even ask. I have it right here. Like things like your hobbies, your show, like TV shows that you like. That's what we're curious about.
Well, actually, I recently watched. It's funny we're talking about ancient Rome a lot. I recently saw Those About to Die.
Hmm.
I think it had some flaws. The first episode, I think, was where Roland Emmerich has this problem a lot. There was a lot of telling, not showing.
Yes, he does.
But on the whole, I actually think that was a reasonably good show. I rather did like that. It was great to see the Flavian amphitheater being flooded and see mock naval combat. That's something that we're also going to see in Ridley Scott's upcoming film, and I think it's so good we actually finally get to see that. Um, Fight in the okay, so Moist Teeth. I'm now looking at your chat. Fight in the arena or be in debt together ain't a good choice. It's a choice a lot of people took. A
Yeah.
lot of people did take it, and it's a choice that we have now denied people in our society who get into debt.
Okay.
And that is part of the problem. And we don't even consider this a political issue. And I think this is the issue with people saying, well, I'm not political, because they don't examine the political content of their own views or the political idea, the ideological political context in which those views arose. And that can be a bit of an issue. So, for example, when Dew of the Mountain, you say you're not political, but had you ever considered this issue of the fact that in some societies, slavery was a perfectly valid way for people to solve debt issues? Had you ever thought about that?
Yeah, like, of course, it's in history, it was a topic, but my question would be like, how would it look nowadays? Because even a person with a full-time job could get heavily into debt, let's say. What would this modern slavery look like? Because you can't put someone as a gladiator back into the arena.
Well, let's think about all the things that are now extremely difficult to do that used to be historically quite easy. One of the things we struggle with is big construction projects. Even though it's very cheap now to buy raw materials, labor is historically expensive. It's one of the reasons we don't have big cathedrals or pyramids anymore. So, if a poor person got into debt, what we might do is their debt could be bought off by someone who wanted a large construction project, and they could work off that debt as an indentured servant, building that person a pyramid or a cathedral.
So something curious that somebody had actually asked before, and digressing, but I would like to know. So, like, what are some of the things that you like to read in your personal time? What are the genres that you enjoy? I'm curious.
I actually read a lot of stuff. I don't read a lot. I don't read nearly as much as I would. I'm starting to think I may have attention deficit disorder. I'm going to talk about maybe getting a prescription for that. But I don't have the attention span that I used to. But I've been reading a lot of Star Wars books, or trying to read a lot. So I read recently The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, which is in universe written by Beaumont Kin. You know, the guy that Dominic Monaghan plays in The Rise of Skywalker. I think that was a very interesting one. Okay, so I'd now like to answer that question. So, old point 69. What if we just wipe away all debts every 20 years? Okay, so no one is incentivized to lend money if the repayments period is over 20 years. So how does that impact people's ability to get startup capital for a business? How does that impact your ability to get a mortgage? How does that impact your ability to take out student loans? That's going to massively have knock-on effects on the rest of society. So you would have to find new ways of doing those things. And I think there is an argument that our society is too debt-based, that we should look into alternatives for of financial systems, that we shouldn't have this usury-based financial system. But you then need to answer the question, where are people who want to start businesses going to get startup capital from? You have to find a new answer to those questions. You can't just say, well, what if we had debt jubilees, which are what they used to have back in biblical times? Because then you get the question of, okay, now we are not incentivized to give long-term loans. How do we solve the problems that loans currently solve?
Okay. Something that somebody asked in the chat that I did kind of want to highlight for a second, because again, have you read Stranger in Strange Lands or any other Henlin?
No, not recently. I think I've read some Robert A. Heinlein stuff a long time ago, but not recently.
Okay.
That would be like, back 10 or more years ago. I think I might have read some of his stuff.
So-
I said I don't read as much as I used to. I think my attention span is not as high as it used to.
So, yeah.
I do think I might have attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
What helps me with that is audiobooks.
Yeah, I was about to say audiobooks are very useful if you
I actually find it harder to focus on audio than I do when reading. I've always drifted off with audiobooks, so
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
I
it can be
do
hard.
think I have ADHD.
and are you seeing, do you have a physician that you're seeing for that, or someone that you're speaking with at least?
Yeah, and I'm going to raise this topic with them next time I meet my doctor. I'm just going to say I do think my attention span is what it is, and even having taken steps to manage things like sleep pattern and such, I do think that I've lost some attention span.
So you mentioned that specifically cooking was one of your hobbies. Is there a particular style of food that you like to cook? Are you experimental in your cooking style? I'm very curious because I know that you did bake as well.
I'm not super experimental. When I find something I like, I'll try it again a few times. So no, I wouldn't say I'm super experimental. There's variations on recipes I've had in ages that I'm happy to try again. It's getting a bit colder, so I'm probably going to use this. It's very hot now. It's going to get colder over the coming months. So when it gets cold, I'm probably going to use the slow cooker again more, and I may try some variations on stews then. There's nothing I'm keen to get super experimental with anytime soon in cooking. Baking, maybe I'll try some slightly newer things.
So let's
I saw one of your, excuse me,
let's go for it,
I
Dave.
saw one of your controversial takes was, for example, a good piece of steak shouldn't be spiced too much. I saw that was a discussion.
And absolutely. So that's absolutely a fair point. I think spices are great when you get cuts of meat that aren't very good. I buy cheap cuts of meat all the time. I'll look for yellow labeled diced chicken. Yeah, that doesn't taste very nice. So, absolutely use spices on that. But I think there's an instinct to put spices on everything when it's not needed. If for example, I made, and this is also true of baking, I made some rolls recently. And I used just cheap plain flour, not bread flour for those. So to give those a bit more flavor, I used some spices. For the sweet ones, I used cinnamon and vanilla. And for the savory ones, I used some mixed herbs, and sometimes I use garlic granules as well. Now that's a really, really cheap flour. That's just plain flour. You can get a 1.5 kilo bag of that for as little as £1 at Morrison's. That's really cheap. Doesn't have a lot of flavor though. It's not going to create the nicest quality of bread. So absolutely, you may want to suppose that. But if I'm making something with nice, high quality, strong bread flour, you're not necessarily going to want to put a bunch of things in that, because you want to enjoy the flavor of the base substrate, and adding a bunch of stuff on top of it isn't necessarily a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. I just saw that there was a discussion around that take, so that stuck in my mind.
So if, let's just say, I come to your home for instance, and we're having a meal, what is something that you prepare that you feel most comfortable with?
Well, I would check with you in advance. Are you a vegetarian? Do you have any allergies?
No allergies. I eat everything.
Okay. What kind of season is this? Is this a hot time of year, a cold time of year?
How about a cold time of year?
Okay. In that case, I might prepare some pie. I might make a nice beef pie. I'd wait to find some beef that's reduced and freeze it. I've got some in my freezer actually, so I'd maybe take that out. And do a nice pie. I'll get the pre-made pastry blocks, and so you can freeze those and defrost them. So they're great for making pastry dish. But having the slow cooker, I'd have the nice cheap beef. I'd add a bunch of herbs, mixed herbs, garlic, chopped onions to that. Stew that in the slow cooker for hours with some carrots, some nice vegetable stock, a bouillon stock, with the beef. Makes a very, very inexpensive meal. Maybe thicken it a bit with some flour if that's looking to get too runny, and then pour some of that into a nice pie filling, and then bake that for about 40 minutes. And maybe I would have that with some, maybe if I'm in a hurry, just some chopped carrots. But if I've got time to prepare it, I'd maybe have that with some potato wedges or some chips. And I can use the air fryer for those. So that might be what we'd have. And of course, have some lettuce for some greens. Or if you're not a fan of lettuce, I'd add some peas in when I'm making. Maybe take out the carrots and add in some peas when I'm making the beef stew, and that'll add some greens to it. And that so you'll have beef and pea pie.
And there's one thing I'm curious about. I think it's we've been on call for a bit of time, and I did want to I think we will have to wrap it up soon. Usually our streams don't
That's fair.
last.
It's almost 10 p.m. for me, so yes.
Oh yes.
Oh
So
yes.
I guess one of the things I would be very curious about, it was a discussion that was previous that we kind of glossed over a little bit, because a lot of people have assumed specific things about you, specific kinks. I've seen individuals claim if you're sexual for specific things, and I can't pull up your Twitter on my
seeing a thing from Master Mouse, or a slurry to avoid lumps. If you dust the flour over it, dust it, stir, dust the flour in, stir, you can avoid clumping up that way. Another solution is to use corn flour and mix that with water. Bit more expensive though. So yes, your question, sorry.
Yeah, so I guess my question to you, I can't pull up your Twitter, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I can give you the link if you like.
Oh, no. From what I can tell, your Twitter has very many NSFW things that I cannot pull up on YouTube for obvious reasons. So I guess my question to you is this. A lot of people have assumed a lot of things about you when it comes to even, let's just say, sexual identity and things of that nature, from what I've seen from other different posts of people attempting to argue with you for certain things. What would you want the general public to know at large?
Lunar Moon Tea. If you check my my YouTube channel, there's actually a video of me making a lamb pie there. That recipe should work for you. You can substitute in beef and just, instead of mint powder, put in parsley. So yeah, that's the answer to Lunar Moon Tea. Sexually, I think we label sexuality way more than historical societies do, and I think possibly more than is healthy. I'd say I'm pretty happy with the label of heterosexual personally.
So I guess specifically what I would ask is that, perusing your Twitter, for instance, there are retweets of diaper specific related content, and I do see that there is some trans related content, which, that's more power to you. I think that's great. And I'm just curious. I'm just curious how you view that, and what you would want the general audience of the internet to know about some of those things. Because obviously, people have thoughts, and even people on the right, specifically, if we're looking at the right, would have specific thoughts on transgenderism and things like that, and having some kind of fascination and attraction to that. I'm very curious how you view yourself and how you would want the audience at large to view you.
Well, I think I don't think it's healthy to be too obsessed with how other people view you. I think people like what they like,
And even if
we can
spend
the rest of time interrogating where our various tastes come from, but there's documentaries about ABDL and such, if you want to get more context about it. The time we have couldn't really get that into it.
Well, I guess my question
from what I know, it's most about the nurturing.
Yes, that kind of nurturing thing
side of it.
Yeah,
that's definitely a factor. Yes.
Yeah. But I guess my question to you is and not a question, but just an expand upon that. There would be people of, let's say, similar political leanings to yourself, if we're going to come back to that now, that would potentially disapprove of those kinds of outward attractions. And I'm not harping on it in regards to the fact that you
would they be similar political leanings to myself, or are they just broadly on the right?
Well, that's what I mean.
Because you've asked me to acknowledge nuance in saying that although you would all say you are broadly on the left, none of you would particularly say that you are specifically communists or specifically
Mhm.
Marxists.
Mhm.
I'd say the right is also a fairly broad spectrum.
Okay. Well, again, that's kind of though that's why I'm speaking very broadly for a second, just because there are those of similar political leanings to yourself who would maybe disapprove or disavow those types of things or view those things to be disgusting, and specifically with trans individuals do not believe that they have a place in society. And I'm very curious how you
Well,
feel
I think
about that.
a lot of trans people are as they are because we've actually made that the only place for them in society. And I think that is
Hmm.
kind of a problem with how we view social roles. And I think if you look at a lot of issues like homelessness, for example, but even
Mhm.
something like, say, incels, why do we have an incel culture?
Mm.
Well, because for a long time we kind of viewed the only things that it was socially acceptable to be once you were an adult was you had to be a married adult person who, you know, there was almost no social respect for people who weren't sexually active. But if you look at history, a lot of these people might have become monks, or they might have joined militant religious orders. And there were very many situations where it was socially acceptable and even commendable to do that. But
Mhm.
now we've actually made, in many ways, society very narrow in terms of what it's acceptable to be.
Mm.
Um, so you, and I think the same thing is true of transgenderism. We've now said that the only socially acceptable things to be past a certain age are adult man and adult woman.
Mm.
Um, we no longer have eunuchs. We no longer have badals. We no longer have these social roles that those people might in previous times have filled.
Mm.
Um, and we have narrowed society so much that anyone caught outside of the narrow roles that we used to have are now either contorting themselves to fit into what they consider to be the closest role to what they can do, or they're just being left out of
Mhm.
society altogether.
Mhm.
You know, so you look at the modern homelessness crisis.
Mm.
Uh, why do we have a homelessness crisis? Well, I think if we looked at history, a lot of adults were not expected to manage a household. People
Mm.
would live in extended family groups of 3 or 4 families.
Mhm.
So consider there really only needs to be one person in that family group who can handle the household expenses,
Mhm.
who can handle paying rent and paying
Mhm.
taxes,
Mhm.
things like that.
Mhm.
Um, So you could have perfectly productive adults who had no way of managing a budget sheet. They had no way of managing their own financial affairs. They couldn't maintain a household, but they were still respected members of society. They didn't become homeless. And
Okay.
you also had people who were members of religious orders, and there would maybe be only one person in the entire abbey or the entire monastery
Mhm.
or the entire convent who would manage things like paying for repairs, paying rent,
Uh-huh.
paying taxes. So you had huge numbers of adults who weren't expected to
Mhm.
manage their own household. You had people who were provided accommodation by their employer.
Right.
If you were an artist in medieval times,
Mm.
your room and board was part of your payment. If you were
Mm.
hired by a lord to paint a fresco on his wall or make a mosaic,
Mhm.
that could very well take you years, even
Mhm.
decades. And during that entire time, your room and board and food would be
Mhm.
paid for and managed by your employer. You
So
weren't expected to handle that
so
yourself.
something
And I think a large part of why
Mhm.
we have so many homeless people now, why we have
Mhm.
incels, why we have
Okay.
transgender people, is
Mhm.
we have narrowed the number of acceptable social roles to be independent adult man,
Mm.
independent adult woman. Everyone has to be a citizen. Everyone has to be a
Mm.
taxpayer. Everyone has to personally manage all of these things. And you can, to some extent, split the burden of managing those things with a spouse if you have a spouse. But if you don't have a spouse, and even if you've got no interest in having a spouse, then you are expected to fully manage the household affairs on your
Mhm.
own. And I think that is just more of a mental strain that a lot of people are really up to.
So
And
something
those people now become homeless.
so something I would ask, and we can, you know, that all of aside. So would you identify yourself as involuntary celibacy or a part of that movement in some regard? Just as a curious question, because you did talk about it.
No, I
Okay.
wouldn't.
Okay. That was just
Because
that was just a
I've never
question.
really pursued a
Hmm.
relationship in that sense.
Is that
Um,
so? So
but I do
then,
think. but I do think historically a lot of the people who are now considered incels, they aren't pursuing relationships necessarily because they want them. They're pursuing relationships because they believe that is what will make them valued by society.
Okay, so
in historical times, those people might have become monks.
Right.
Or they might have become Knights Templar, and that would have been a socially valued thing that they could do, that they were respected for doing and held an honored position in society for doing. And I think we have too badly narrowed what acceptable roles a person in society can have, and people who fall outside of that are just left behind by society.
So something that's really a curious question when we talk about societal norms, and for instance, so you mentioned the lack of place for eunuchs and other things, the historical context for that. Just as some context of background for me, I was an opera singer for a time, so I do know the historical importance of castrati and things like that. And kind of coming back to some of the things that you are saying, and I'm very curious about this, is so when we talk about a narrow-minded view of the world, and you just discussed the narrow-minded view of how people are interacting and how people are perceiving certain concepts, as you are an individual who, it kind of seems to me, is someone who recognizes the importance and potentially, from what I can tell, the beauty of trans individuals. Is that something that you find difficult in certain spaces that you may inhabit, that some people believe you to be a specific type of leaning, some people expect you to be a different type of leaning, but it sounds like you are far more nuanced than that. Is that something that's happened to you?
I think I am a fairly nuanced person, but put it this way, I've had far more flack in left-wing spaces for being a right-winger than I've ever had in right-wing spaces for jacking off to transgender pornography. That's that is a fairly consistent.
So you've had less flag. So in right wing circles for things like that, how do you find that you're?
Well, you have to remember that a large part of right wing circles are dominated by those who don't care too much about hurting others' feelings. So people will get flack for all sorts of things in right wing circles, and you kind of just have to roll with the punches there. So you will get criticism for all sorts of things in right-wing circles.
So very curious then, if you're talking about right-wing circles, for instance, did you ever find yourself, let's say, did you find yourself being ostracized in those circles? And how so?
No, I wouldn't say I ever have.
Okay. But you did mention before that you get a little bit more flack for that, for, in your words, to quote you, jacking off the transgendered persons. And so...
Much less than I've gotten for being a right winger at all in left wing spaces.
Oh, okay. So much less. Okay.
So I've had much less criticism in right wing circles for anything than I have for being a right winger in left wing circles. I find left wing circles have been very, very judgmental of me being a right winger.
I see. And again, like I said, this is more of a general interview. Where it's not necessarily politically motivated in any way, but I was actually genuinely curious because I'm looking at your Twitter. Again, can't pull it up on the stream for those who may be asking. And I do see that there is a variety of things that you post. You've posted transgender porn. You do post individuals in diapers, for instance. How would you view specifically on a topic like that? How would you feel? Or that's not what I want to say. How do you feel that you're viewed at large, specifically for some of those sexual interests that you have?
At large, I'm not actually sure how many people know that. A lot of people just know me as the human pet guy.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of comes to the crux of it. It was kind of, in the beginning of this interview where, you were a little bit heated, and that's okay. We all have heated moments. But I think that that's something that I'm really curious about, is people know you as the human pet guy. And to end this interview, I'm really curious. What do you want the internet to know about you? When we describe, when they see this post about how you're discussing about the logistics of owning a human as a pet and kind of going into how it would be societally looked upon and things like that, and how to, and almost in a normalized version of society. I'm very curious, what do you want the internet to know, and the
I would
differences
like the
between
internet
that?
to know that I am Cybersmith, and I am a person who will, who will consider things perhaps from an outside the box perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I'm not so much outside the box as I am just making you realize how small your box really is.
Mm.
And that's an example. I think that's probably the best analogy. A lot of people aren't really apolitical or politically neutral. They just have a very,
Mm-hmm.
very narrow idea of what political discussions are,
Mm-hmm.
and so they consider themselves to not have very many controversial political beliefs, because their idea of the spectrum of possible political beliefs is extremely narrow.
Mm. Mm. So it sounds like to me what you're saying essentially is that even though your beliefs can be somewhat controversial, there's more to you as a person. You're a baker. You're a writer. Do you draw? Are you an artist at all in the visual style?
Very occasionally I'll do something like that, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
technical drawings for a science fiction concept. I don't have I'm not especially good for it. I think in some sense I don't really have the patience for it. So to a very minor extent, I'd say maybe.
Mm-hmm. So from what I can tell, from what I can see, is that it seems like you're a multi-layered gentleman, and that's, honestly speaking, I think that's, well, I don't know if a lot of the internet knows that. And I will say that, hey, listen, there's things that we don't agree on. That is a broader conversation, and not something that I would debate on my platform, let's say. But I would say that I do, first and foremost, appreciate you coming on to this show. We are a small show, but I do appreciate you, not necessarily, I wouldn't even say it's defending yourself. It's expanding upon yourself, who you are as a person. And I do think that is something that not a lot of people may know about you. The human pet thing and some of your posts have become essentially copy pastas in the broader sense, and a lot of people would view you as a lolcow to a specific degree. And I do think that we all learn something nice about one another. And I do want to kind of leave that off is that well, you and I may have different political views. You may I have different views on the way we all use our platforms. But at the end of the day, I think that this was, or I hope it was, a positive interaction for you specifically.
Yeah, I think it was. Is there anything I know that me and Falgi.Exe have spoken a lot. Is there anything Mr. Albert or Uncool Greg wanted to add before the end?
I think everything.
Nah, I'm good.
I think
I'm
everything
good.
got said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do any final words, because I know this is this was someone that you've known of for a period of time.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on and answering all our questions so honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
you're welcome, and hopefully I've led some of your viewers to perhaps be more analytical of their own beliefs and the context in which those beliefs may have arisen.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that it at the very least they are more understanding or more knowledgeable as you as a person. And I want to thank you for your time. I will let you go, and I appreciate you. Everybody in the chat, I want to thank Cybersmith very much for joining us. It is very appreciated that he did so.
I've got 4 minutes more. If you've got any questions in the chat, any final questions?
I have written down a few questions that we had in the beginning.
All right.
Shoot.
I'm just going to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Because of course there are some questions that come back to the human pet thing. Like, was that ever a fantasy for you? I know it was hypothetical in that situation, but is that really something you would be into?
No comment. Exercise my right to remain.
Okay.
I've discussed that at length elsewhere. I think people will find that if they look up other discussions.
That's completely okay. And some people also ask, how you present yourself on the internet? How much is that a persona? Or are you just yourself? What would you say?
is the self not a persona? Isn't everything we do to some extent affected? Our accents, our methods of dressing, of speaking, of interacting with other people, the mannerisms we have, our ideas of what constitutes politeness, they are all to some extent affected. We aren't inherently as humans born with those. They aren't instinctual. So yes, it's a persona, and yes, it's really me. Everything we do is to some extent a persona.
Yeah, I think some people just wonder if you know how some kind of internet trolls can be. That's something, then it's all just played up and nothing like.
Well,
But
is any aspect of us not played up? Is there? This is my question: is there such a thing as an authentic person, and what would such a person really be? Is there anyone in the world who would stand up to the degree of scrutiny that would reasonably be required to analyze a real person? You'd have to basically Truman show someone.
I think.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much the question. If you were playing here the Truman Show.
Yeah. I think there. I'm trying to think. There are some in the chat. If you want to, feel free and answer those via text. That's perfectly fine. I do want to respect the fact that you do have time and you do have to go to bed.
It's just about 10 minutes. So anyway, I've got that game later, and I'm going to have something to eat. So I'm going to head off.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Thank
Enjoy
you very
it.
much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So guys, I do want to. So that was an interesting little thing. And I do want to. Cybersmith, I do want to thank you. Oh, guys, this is do I have a window capture on? See, that would be a fun fact if I actually have a window open, right? That would be the thing if I have a window open. I do want to thank Cybersmith. Cybersmith, if you view this video, I really want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, personally speaking. Again, like I said to him, and like I said to everybody in this call, and in our stream, there are things I don't necessarily agree with Cybersmith. I was not going to do it for the debate purposes because I didn't want this to be a debate. I genuinely wanted this to be a discussion of who he was as a person, and his personhood on the internet. And I think that the kind of that last question on is it a persona on the internet is something that's very, very interesting. Greg, QTV, do you guys have any final thoughts on this?
So not knowing who he was literally 2 hours ago, and then
You're welcome.
Also, sorry for not participating in the
It's okay.
interview.
You gave me emotional support.
Very complicated individual, clearly more than just a meme Tumblr post, but also definitely disagree on a lot of things. I personally would have a lot to talk with him if every conversation didn't have to veer into different differences in politics, but as he's saying, everything is inevitably stems from it and goes to it's one of those things, somebody you meet in college where you'd have this conversation with them and everything would eventually devolve into that type of conversation. It's like I don't want to spend all my time.
I would have loved to heard more about his baking.
I wanted to know about his campaign. I wanted to know what his first when he first got into Pathfinder, what he played. I want to know if he's GMing. I'm assuming he's GMing. I want to know, all that was much more interesting than the stuff that he's known for, but that's not what we get known for, I guess.
I do want to say this to Cybersmith. If you are still watching, if you're still viewing, or if you do watch this back later, I do want to say that there's a lot of things I disagree with you politically wise, and I think that there's an over obsession of history.
Amazing.
But But me?
Oh
no, sorry. But what I wanted to say was, I think that you are more interesting of a person for what you have talked about today in regards to your love of Pathfinder, your love of baking and cooking, and other things. And I would say, and I hope that you nurture that honestly speaking, kind of my analysis of it would be a little bit different than maybe what he would feel about the conversation. Yeah, Moist said, I definitely would say that the human pet thing is in no way the most interesting thing about him. That's absolutely correct. I don't think it is either. And I think that if anything, we all are a little bit different on the internet, and the internet is a strange place. QTV, did you have any final words you'd like to go over?
I think he is. I think he's a person on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be polite because we are. You can say
I
whatever you
am
want to
being
say.
polite because I am kind of the troll of this group.
That's true.
And
Let it
I'm going to
out.
say that I think the man needs to not base everything around politics. Like, we're not here for politics. We weren't here for a political
yeah.
debate.
Yeah.
And I don't like how he continually kept trying to push a political angle. Like, we don't create and base our personalities in and around politics. That's where you
I haven't
get.
thought about Sarah Palin in a decade.
Yeah,
that's,
I was about to
that's where
say
we
the
get
Sarah
further-
Palin thing was a little weird. The screaming
Yeah.
in the beginning that he started, and I had to kind of shush him a little bit, was interesting.
I think
But
what
I
I
get-
find
but again-
interesting is how he tried to create a certain personage of tribalism when he himself displays that exact same level of tribalism.
Oh yeah,
And again, I'm not here to debate this
Yeah.
or argue. I don't care, but it was observations that I had. Now, do I think he's a human person with thoughts and feelings and desires and dreams and goals? Sure, as are we all.
yeah.
But he could have come into this conversation with a lot more open-mindedness than immediately defaulting to "we're all leftist Marxists."
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about being a person
I
on the.
can't believe I'm a communist.
You're a we are all domestic terrorists. That is a
Yeah.
little American lore for people.
I was, yeah.
But I will say this. And Cybersmith, if you're out there still, if you block me on Twitter or continue to follow me, or whatever, I would love it. But I will say this is that while there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily agree with you, I do want to say that it does feel like that you were dealt kind of I forgot the transition. Dealt kind of a shitty hand by the internet in a way that did some of the things you said should have been clowned on. Yeah, some of the shit you said should have been clowned on, but you're still a person. And it does kind of feel like, there was a part when he talked about the Pathfinder being outed from the Pathfinder server and things like that. Is that, and listen, I don't got trolls remorse in regards. I can just develop a level of empathy. You can kind of see how a person kind of becomes persona non grata when they say certain things and then they lose certain circles. And that is what it is. It's a whole thing. To everyone who put in a question in, I do apologize for not getting to them. I just wanted to guide the interview in a way that was more focused on him, less so of kind of waxing more poetic on political points of view. If he does want to do that, there are other channels that do that. I would have no problem putting this video in somewhere, and maybe
I've
person
already been asked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say too. I'm glad he doesn't consider himself personally an incel. Like that's a W.
Yeah, honestly speaking, he was personally a W. He is, and again, it shows that there's people that are a lot more nuanced. And even though I don't agree with him, I mean, you can go to his Twitter if you're above the age of 18. That's why I said above the age of 18. You can go to his Twitter and see what he posts. If you're
send me
not
the link later. Send me the link.
I'll send you the link later. But again,
I will give you the link.
I genuinely want it to be known that, like, hey, if people ever
Don't go to his Twitter and bully him.
No, don't go to
Don't
Twitter.
bully him.
No.
Always, please don't go to Twitter and bully somebody. I will say this: if people want to do more research on him, there's a lot more research on him. You guys can, if there are, it's very NSFW. If there are people that want to do research on him, you can reach out to me on Discord. It's Falgi.Exe. and I will give you all the information that we kind of have that we've gone over. There are other screenshots that are not, the super best. Kind of just like talking about leftoids and things, and potentially with the evidence of dragons and things. I don't even want to go over that because I'm pretty sure, for the most part, he said everything that he could have said. I think he said
anything he's gonna. Yeah, I think he said everything he was gonna say. One thing I didn't say, I guess, is having historical context for modern times doesn't always work, because if we're too focused on worrying about history, how are we gonna make history currently? I don't know.
No, that was what was expressed a couple different
times.
There
was a fixation on the historical things of the past.
Instead of
we're not
the
taking the modern aspect into account, which is
we're not taking consideration. It feels
like
history
it's sidestepping,
still living it,
sidestepping beliefs or what your beliefs are.
Right, and I do think that there was an instance where that did happen, and I did try to direct him away from that. Like I said to him, I think it's I'm not calling ourselves a political channel, but we keep our politics out of it for the understanding of people. Internet drama happens to often be very varied in its degree of cut and dry, but this was kind of cut and dry in certain regards, that this was a person that wasn't fully understood. And that's what I really wanted to get at.
Internet drama is inherently in itself apolitical. Like, if you are a YouTube channel that covers this kind of material, you're going to cover people from every single side of the political spectrum. Like, we covered Mama Max last week. Did we not cover Demon Mama a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, we covered Demon Mama and Mama Max. Demon Mama would be, well, to be fair to Cybersmith's quote, he would say that we are eating ourselves.
We are
that, or you're going to be covering it charitably or uncharitably versus your political opponents, quote unquote. That's not everything has to be a versus them. Not everything has to be.
It's tribalism. Right. It just reeks of tribalism.
Right. I think one of the things is that not everything needs to be semantic. Sometimes you can just take people at face value when they're asking you, legitimate questions. Again, some of the things that he has written on the internet, as he claims, are hypotheticals, are probably things that could have been inside thoughts. I'm not going to take anybody's free speech away. Some things should have been inside thoughts, but I mean, the sentiment I got was very much that I think. And this is my conjecture, Cybersmith, if you're hearing this is only my conjecture. This is not a judgment upon you. But it felt like a lot of the reasons for expansion was because there was hurt feelings, the way the internet looked at him. And there was a person underneath the meme, and the person underneath the meme is hurt. And I think that just goes to show that with certain scenarios like this, you can have a little bit more leeway with how you feel about people. I think that this was a nice little exercise in what interviewing can look like. There are much better interviewers than us. I kind of just did this all off the cuff. Most of these questions were literally me just trying to figure it out. But I do want to thank Anonymous for gifting $50. That was really nice of you.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, we got a $50 donation. I'm pretty sure it may have been Cybersmith. I'm not entirely sure.
If so, that's nice.
That was very nice of you.
Thank you very much.
I feel,
whoever it was. Yes.
Cloudy says, I feel like for internet history, you can still go over some things of interesting posts. Sure, we can go over a couple different things for internet history's sake. He had like some interesting takes on Vienna in Italy. And Venice and things like that.
Venice and Vienna sound very similar.
I don't like this post that like they're making fun of him for grabbing these off the fucking Doctor Who wiki. Let the man be. I love it. Fucking Doctor Who wiki. Let it be. I ain't gonna make fun of him for that shit. I'm trying to think if there's any things. So this is just one. Despite having worked for months to impregnate this website with the seeds of wisdom, the womb of Tumblr has swollen only with out-of-context mockeries of my person and a throwaway comment concerning Ashley Ray's frontal jiggle bits. Alas, when I shower the denizens of this domain with the glorious benediction of my thoughts, I find the uterus of the internet is barren. Do you really have to phrase it this way? How would you have phrased it? Yeah, he talks like that in real life. I will say this. I will put this out there. Cybersmith, if this shit is a character, fucking good on you, dude. If this is an 8-year-long character, good on you. I don't think it is, but if it was an 8-year-long character, good on you.
Me also, I'm gonna glaze Falgi here for a minute. Great job interviewing.
Oh,
great job
thanks.
interviewing. You did a
Yeah.
great job answering the question and keeping on track.
Mhm.
I could hear the nurse voice. I could hear your experience having to do this for a job. Because I've heard it before that when I worked in hospitals as well. So good on you, because I'm gonna be quiet because I know if I say anything, I'm not gonna make it better.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to be quiet because I don't know the guy. I don't know the history. I don't
Yeah.
That
know
too. I
where-
didn't know the guy, so I'm like,
And
I
I-
don't have
and-
any experience here.
Right, and I didn't know his history either. And I, honestly speaking, everything that I was kind of grabbing was either from Dew telling me stuff, from chat, or just kind of trying to figure out a lot of the things that he was saying. Again, I think that was the other thing I wanted to point out was he was very honest about the things that I asked him. Did he wax poetic a little bit too long? Yeah, sure. There was no political agenda. He really tried on it. He really tried his own side of it, which I let him talk, let people talk sometimes. But yeah, I just guide people back to their posts. I really appreciate that, guys. Just kind of coming back to it. Some of his other posts, just for YouTube algo sake. My favorite explanation for the supernatural is ball lightning, because what you're really relying on is it wasn't anything paranormal. Sometimes storms simply produce plasma balls with the properties of ghost sorcerers from outer space. Cybersmith says another is when leftoids dismiss evidence of dragons by claiming that they were just dinosaur bones. No, they weren't dragons. It was just a square cube law
What's the
defying.
Illuminati?
Yeah, that was something I wasn't expecting when he started speaking. I'm going to derail and not read this anymore because, hey, I wish dragons were real. I don't really
That's a fucking take.
That's a fucking take. I don't
That's
think
a
it's.
fucking.
I don't.
Those
think
were
it's-
words that were typed.
Yeah, I don't think that it's leftoids that it's leftists that don't believe in dragons.
Are all
The leftists
archaeologists
killed the dragons.
leftists?
I fucking want dragons, man. I would have fucking loved that shit. Listen, this is some old US lore. The History Channel was trying to get really big. There's a channel called Billiam. If you've ever watched it, you should watch it. But they did like fantastical what if documentaries, but made it look like history documentaries. And they fucking did one on dragons. I fucking bought the book as a kid. That shit was sick. I fucking wish dragons were real. Hey, I'm a leftist that thinks dragons should be real, and I really want them to be real. I want modern science to be proven wrong. I'm just gonna say that out loud.
Communist.
I'm a no, you know what? Fuck it. I'm a communist that wants dragons to be real. You know what? Yeah, that's right. Do you want to know why I want dragons to be real? I want them to be real for everybody. That is what a communist wants. No, but really,
The communist dragon pipeline is
the
real.
communist dragon pipeline is real.
For real.
Okay, so he says something about getting off topic. I'd say many of the birds you've named are sometimes goofballs, and birds can be goofballs. Dangerous in some circumstances. He wanted real dinosaurs. I wanted real dinosaurs too.
I mean,
Bring Jurassic
don't
Park
we
back.
all
Wait,
to a
but-
certain extent?
Who doesn't want dinosaurs?
I mean, I guess in your heart of hearts, if you want to call
Mm-hmm.
dinosaurs
dragons.
dragons,
Mhm,
then
mhm.
you know what? By God,
Yeah.
Godspeed.
Also,
You know, by the
I'm a-
grace of God, go you.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. I can kind of see why he was a little upset. This is like a fine take that, like, yeah, they're made up dragons. I don't want the dragons to have fucking feathers on them. I hate that idea. Fuck the feathers
But
on the
it
dinosaurs.
will be like that though.
Yeah, like,
You don't want giant chickens?
I don't want fucking giant chickens. I hate that idea. I want fucking
You know,
real
feathered
ass
dragons
dinosaurs.
are also a thing too in
Real ass
fantasy,
dinosaurs
right?
No, they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
They are. There are dragons with the in Mexican folklore, the Quetzalcoatl.
No one watched the Neverending Story, the Luck Dragon. He was
yeah,
furry.
That's he's fur, but he's not
Falcor?
feathered.
Falcor.
But
yeah.
Falcor is not feathered. It's different. They
Watch
think
your
that they're
heroes Weise in
birds.
Sauberland.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's like that's something. Feathered dinosaurs are cool.
No,
you
I
cowards.
agree with Moisty. I like feathered dinosaurs.
I
but I also
don't-
like non-feathered dinosaurs.
Yeah,
I
that's what I
can
was
like
about to say.
everything.
That's what I was about to say. I think feathered dinosaurs can be cool. This is like a small aside. So for one of my
This is our biggest schism in
Yeah,
Biggest
the Opp
argument.
Block.
No,
in the Opp Block.
that's a SpaghettiOs.
Oh shit, you're right.
Shit, fuck me. I will say this. So in one of my D&D campaigns, the world that I used, Dragonborn are not very
Dragon D's.
Dragon D's nuts. Dragons are not very prolific, and specifically Dragonborns are not prolific. They were just recently discovered, and one of my players wanted to have a unknown backstory. So I described Dragonborns in the setting to be feathery in some regards, and lo and behold, they met a group of Dragonborns, and they did not look like him, and he realized that he was genetically modified.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you all for coming out.
Oh my
No.
gosh. Yeah, I think again, like some of these screenshots are not.
Pro eugenics Falgi just said.
Whoa.
Oh, that's not what I said. I said he was genetically modified because of the Eldritch engines. It's a thing in
yeah.
Eberron's lore.
Mhm.
All right. I do want to thank everybody for coming out. I'm just gonna put up the end title card real quick. Because let me actually make a note of when this ends. This finally ends at 3:17. I'm actually putting up real time codes this time so I can fucking edit, because editing sucks when I don't have time
Hey,
codes.
we're getting a little better every time.
I'm getting a
Proud of
little
you.
better every time. So I want to thank everybody for showing up today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try to get our Mama Max retrospective video up. I want to thank everybody today. I want to thank Mod Greg for being here. Mod Greg, talk to the people.
I am amazing, and you all should be aware of that.
You should-
Thank you for chatters, Raina, Moisty, Star, Cloudy, of course, Killjoy, thanks for coming. Who else do
Lunar.
we have in here? Ald69,
Lemon.
Chris, the Narc, thank you.
Yeah,
you
Chris
didn't
the
have
Narc,
to
thank
do
you.
it, but
Narc.
That was very nice of you. Lunar Moon T, always good to see you. Who else we got in here? I missed a couple. I'm scrolling through. That's about. If I missed anybody,
Ald, thank you so much for the subscription. You
Oh,
definitely were there
thank
too.
you.
I want.
It's because I
we
shouted him out,
appreciate
guys.
you.
I get the credit.
Yeah.
Mouse
Mouse,
Moose, thank you.
yeah, Mouse Moose,
Massa
thank you for
Mouse.
being here. The QTV, any final words to the people?
No, just ask me to come back on more often. I love it here.
I will definitely try to get you back on more on. And do our foreign correspondent.
Yes, all the
What-
way from the land of
Germany.
The
We-
pretzels.
We talked about it. All right,
Land of the pretzels.
Do any
Yes,
final
of course.
thoughts? This was your topic, and you got to interview the man that you have like followed for 5 years.
I met my hero.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah,
Never meet your hero.
never meet your hero. Yeah,
Here heroes, yeah.
I think you did it. All right.
All right, folks. My name is Falgi.Exe. This has been the Opp Block. Thank you guys very much. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you again to all
Good
of our
night, Opp
guests.
heads.
Good night, Opp
Thank you for
heads.
struggling.
You've been great. Go to somebody else's stream. I don't fucking know. Good night, everybody. Holy shit.